within 6 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Good evening, Chicago, and welcome to another Friday night edition of Chicago Corner. I am your host, Jerry Vasilatos, and we've had an interesting news week on both the national and the local front. I think out of interest in covering the more compelling news, we're kind of front-loaded tonight with a lot of national stories. And the main national story actually does, I believe, impact what's been going on here in Chicago with the ongoing migrant crisis, as we're seeing more and more migrants shipped into Chicago as a result of the border wall or parts of the border being open and migrants coming through. I want to give a lot of credit tonight because I was cribbing before the show because I knew what stories we were going to cover. But I listened to Savvy Sab's podcast earlier this evening that helped flesh out a lot of details in regards to some of the stories we're going to be talking about, most notably the migrant wall and the excuses that Joe Biden is using to use what he claims are federal funds that have to be spent, even though, as Sabby explained, you can reallocate funds for one thing somewhere else. We'll go more into it after we begin the story, but I want to welcome, first of all, my co-host, as always, Ed Heller. Hello, Ed, and welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Are we opening up there? Oh, good.
Yep.
Okay. So I didn't want to tilt the details on the story too soon, but I was wrestling with issues over here to make sure things work and trying to fill time. Speaking, Ed, welcome. How's your week been?
It's been challenging, I can say. I've mentioned it on previous shows that like a lot of like more than 60% of America, I am also living paycheck to paycheck, and it's been a rough week.
Yep.
I had to replace a tire the past weekend, and it was not an expected expense, and it was one of the worst times for that to happen for me.
I've covered all my bills except my ComEd, which is still carrying a balance from last month of over $250 because I had the air conditioner running. And I'm wondering how I'm going to cover my electricity to have power in here to keep doing the show for several weeks. I don't know. Something will probably break and come through, but nobody should live this way, whether it's car problems or just basic utilities to function in your household. We're living in it's surreal. The reality we're all facing right now, financially and economically, is surreal. You have one or two medical emergencies, you're done. You make an investment that is based on fundamental due diligence, and you discover that laws are not followed, or those that are violating laws are not charged and held accountable, and you lose all of your savings. It's like the bad guys always win, and there's no whether it's the SEC, whether it's the FCC, whether it's the Department of Justice, whether it's both parties right now who are pointing at each other regarding the migrant crisis, and especially this border wall. Remember when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was down at the border wall crying because the kids were in cages and Trump wanted to put up this border wall? It's like, kids are still in cages. Kids were in cages during the Obama era. It's just suddenly we shined a light on it when Trump, and look, it's not good whoever's president. But now Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, instead of holding Biden accountable for needing to put up more border wall, she's pointing to, I forgot which Republican, but she's pointing at a Republican and blaming the Republicans because of funds that were put in place under Trump that have to be spent now. Biden has no choice but to spend these funds on the border wall that those funds were allocated for, while people are forgetting. And again, hat tip and thanks to Sabby Sabs for bringing this on my radar, putting this on my radar. It was very easy for Biden to reallocate pandemic funds to police budgets. There's nothing preventing him from reallocating funds, whereas in this case, his excuse that he has to use the Trump era funds to continue building more wall is just more bullshit, because they could reallocate those funds anywhere they want. He's blaming Trump for something he has to do, he feels he has to do or wants to do to make it look like he's coming down hard on illegal immigration. Do you know what the number one reason I think that we're facing illegal immigration, Ed, if that's what you want to call it, is because it takes 10 fucking years to do it legally, to become a citizen. It should not take anybody 10 years to become a citizen of this country. Plus, another thing Sabby brought up, which again, I'm very grateful for, she's talking about how we're blaming everybody running from Venezuela to the United States. And we've talked about the fact that this has a lot to do with U.S. imperialist policy in Venezuela. Well, a lot of the migrants are moving from Venezuela to Colombia, thinking that their situations will improve. And it's not, because Colombia is just as fucked up. So they risk life and limb to cross the border to come over here with their kids. If anybody thinks that that's easy to do, to risk your kids' lives, because not only are you fleeing your original country, Venezuela, but you're then going into Colombia and you're finding that it's a shithole there as a result of things this country's done down in our southern regions, because of our policy. Immigration shouldn't take 10 years. It should not take 10 years to become a citizen here. We've talked about this before. If you reform citizenship, you're going to have a lot less people coming through here, especially those you might designate as undesirables and dangerous to this country. If you make the process easier to let the desirable ones through, who are actually fleeing horrible circumstances or need sanctuary in this country, are fleeing for their lives, the immigration system is fucked up, plain and simple. And that's why we're facing this problem right now. Ed, what do you think?
Well, there's a lot to unpack. All the stuff you just said. But we, like you said, we talked about a lot of this before. It's, the immigration system is messed up in part because the duopoly wants it messed up, because they get to do their fake battles in Congress on who's better or worse for the country. Is it better if we pretend like we want to welcome immigrants, or is it better if we pretend like we want them to send them all back home because they're stealing our jobs, which,
the jobs nobody wants.
Simultaneously nobody wants to work, but they're stealing those jobs that nobody wants. So, and thank you, Uncle Warren, for the $5 toward the tire fund, which I think it's just going to go toward Chicago Corner, because really, at this point, it's all a wash.
For both of us.
Yeah. So, and thanks for joining us. If you're just finding us on Chicago Corner, if your stream just started working, wherever you are trying to get the live streams working, thanks for watching. If you're not yet a member of Rumble, please head over to rumble.com, sign up for a free account, and follow Chicago Corner TV on Rumble. I know some of you are probably thinking, well, hey, I get the notification for Facebook, and I used to watch you guys on YouTube, but I haven't seen you on YouTube. Yeah, we're not on YouTube anymore.
And every Friday, by the way, and I think you see it, I update our YouTube Chicago Corner feed with a notification, hey, everybody, find us on Rumble and Rockfin, because we fled YouTube. It's just too problematic over there. And, you know, we're trying to literally, I guess, for lack of a better word, house train everybody into coming over here to Rumble so we can build our audience over here. We will probably archive programs that stream exclusively live here on YouTube. But Ed, I don't know if you saw the email I carbon copied you on. I did contact Rumble and ask what's the issue with the cross syndication, because none of our Rumble shows are on YouTube yet. And none of our old YouTube shows have been migrated to Rumble, so we have them in this account as a repository. We're just waiting on internal tech stuff to resolve itself. Let me really quickly address the live chat here. First of all, thanks everybody for joining. Warren, Kathy, Art. Art, no joke, but a Hershey bar is $2.99, and that's unhealthy. Do you know what a healthy bag of grapes will cost you? Probably about $7 or $8. That's the disparity.
Everything.
Warren,
everything costs too much.
And Warren, thanks for the $5. Every little bit helps. Put it towards your hookers and blow. I wish we could get them that cheap, Warren. Maybe you know something we don't, but can you make immigration profitable? Art asks. I think yes, you can. Of course you can. Because again, most migrants and immigrants are coming through and taking and they're welcomed by all the businesses that want to pay them pennies on the dollar because they have manual labor jobs that Americans don't want to take. Now, I'm not advocating that migrants just take these horrible manual labor jobs, but if you're going to tier migration and citizenship and say, hey, one of the caveats of citizenship is as you come in, we will give you a worker's permit. You start in a job at this income level, and then you grow to another income level, because those are the jobs that are going to them anyway, that I would imagine a lot of businesses are probably paying migrants under the counter where no taxes are collected or reported. So that's how I would, just off the top of my head, Art, not being any kind of an economic scholar, but how do you make it profitable? By giving them entry-level jobs with their workers permit that they're going to pay some taxes on. And those are the jobs that nobody else wants. Because I don't know any American who complains that migrants are taking American jobs that would go take any of the jobs that migrants are taking. Let's be honest about that.
Yeah, and I could get on my soapbox about how everybody, migrants and regular, citizens, should be getting a living wage regardless. But I'm not going to do that tonight,
you know
because.
Let me just address that. Yes, Ed, in a perfect world.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we live in the United States, which is all compromise and incremental change. And I don't think it's that unfair of a trade-off. If just at the beginning, and I'm not talking about giving migrants poverty level wages. That's not what I am advocating for. But the ladder to citizenship with a work permit means you can take the jobs that these companies don't want to pay anybody else and make the companies pay a fair living wage that is taxed, because Americans are taking the higher paying jobs that require college and educations elsewhere. That's what I'm advocating for.
Yeah. Well, and as far as, Americans, especially the ones who are either long-term or short-term unemployed, the federal jobs guarantee is still a good idea. And if they wanted to expand that program to basically create a base wage, working a federal job that they can't find people to do in a normal circumstance, and expand that to migrants as well, I would be fine with that, because what you're really doing, you're not taking jobs away from people who wouldn't have already had those jobs, had those things not needed to be done, and they couldn't find anybody to do them. So it's good for everybody to have full employment in the country, even though a lot of the people involved in government right now are pretending that unemployment is a feature of our economy, and it's supposed to be that way to scare the hell out of everybody else, to make sure that they just work a job for a crap wage.
And that's exactly what it's feeding. That's the psychological warfare it's feeding. You know what, Ed? More people ought to stop looking at the migrant crisis as a problem.
It's an opportunity.
start looking at it as an thank you. Thank you for cutting off me trying to sound like I'm wise. I was going to say
we share a brain sometimes, Jerry. I think it's through the internet is part of the reason. It's like our live stream gets jacked once in a while because for some weird reason our brain waves are getting tied in through the interwebs and causing little hangups. That's why our reaction things get all weird sometimes.
I get it.
I'll stop talking.
Just let me finish a pearl of wisdom now and then. So it looks like I have a brain in my head. All right. Let's go to the live chat. Oh, here we go. Here we go with people misunderstanding what I'm saying here. Like right off the top here, what makes me think migrants aren't educated? Kathy, I would venture to say a lot of migrants, the type of education they have is not going to get them the type of job most Americans want at, some kind of a moderate, acceptable living wage. So don't take what I'm saying and process it as I'm saying migrants are stupid. I don't see migrants, at least from my experience, I'm not seeing migrants and immigrants coming into this country to take white collar jobs. What I'm seeing them take is manual labor jobs, construction. These are jobs that require intelligence. Okay, that's not, and some education if you need to know math and know how to do measurements and things like that. So, every time I say something, it's like somebody, oh, well, you're saying this. It's not what I'm saying. I don't want to be misinterpreted here, and I don't want words put in my mouth. I didn't say that migrants aren't educated. So we need more migrant stories, and you should showcase them. Great. Great. Yeah, we should. If there was only enough time in the day and we had a staff, absolutely.
Yeah, we never said that migrants weren't educated. I don't make that assumption, and I'll take it a step further. Is that I don't assume that every migrant coming into here doesn't have. There are some migrants that are coming from countries and they're refugees or whatever, and they had careers. Some were doctors, some were engineers, some had all kinds of college degrees and all kinds of things, but then they get here and they don't necessarily have that option.
Ed, let me also argue with you, just debate you on that point. I don't sense all the migrants that we're hearing about and the stories that Kathy wants to hear are migrants, high-class educated migrants who are doctors or civil engineers. I think that they're probably able, not that they're happy in their countries with the type of with the type of situations I would probably speculate lower class citizens who are fleeing those countries are dealing with.
So, I just don't like to make assumptions like that.
But because, I don't. But we don't have to make assumptions, but we can speculate. Okay, if I'm making a decent salary in a country that's make that the lower income people in my country are suffering under, I don't think I'm going to leave my position because I'm comfortable to risk life and limb across the border coming to the United States. Okay, we can speculate as much as we want. I'm not making assumptions, but I'm thinking fairly and logically. I haven't heard any stories, as Kathy's asking us to talk about, of doctors and white collar migrants and refugees coming into this country. I do see a lot of them coming from Eastern Europe. A lot of people with computer skills that are coming in that seem to do very well in the tech industries, which is really actually taking jobs away from Americans because those are the higher paid jobs. But, Kathy, I don't think that it's racist or xenophobic to speculate that a lot of migrants coming through are people who've been dealing with working in agriculture or manual labor jobs in their country, coming here because they might have a better opportunity getting better wages than what they're running away from, along with destabilization in those countries that is just causing it to be intolerable for anybody who's not an elite in that country from surviving. And I'm not going to have any shame in saying that or speculating that. That's just my logical brain analyzing it. Yeah, Ed. I mean, you could disagree with me. I mean, I'm just saying. I
don't feel like this conversation is going to go anywhere because we both agree that we're not making assumptions that everybody coming across the border is of a certain type of skill set.
Okay.
And so
Well,
it just feels like there's better use of our conversational skills than to try
well,
and debate
don't
over this.
great, but don't tone police my conversational skills
Um,
because I have an opinion and
no,
I wanted to
I
state it. Whether
okay. I just
it's right
wanted to
or
state
wrong,
I just wanted to
I'm not-
state my opinion on that because I kind of
okay.
felt like,
Well, that's
you
like
know,
shutting the conversation down. Like, no, you're wrong, and we're better served talking about other things. And I'm Jerry
well,
splaining. And you know what,
oh,
Kathy? No, I'm not dealing with the Jerry splaining anymore. Okay, we all have our life experiences. We all have our experiences with other people. We all look at and analyze things different ways. Okay, I am always advocating for the underdog. I'm always trying to find equity and trying to find solutions, like I'm talking about with making the path to citizenship simpler. And sorry, we can disagree on this. Yeah, there probably are a lot of migrants who've got computer skills and other skills, but I'm going to say probably more don't have those skills, which is why they come over here and they get the cheap paying jobs that these companies that are not policed by the government for hiring whatever you want to call them, illegal immigrants, undocumented workers, they get away with paying them next to nothing instead of saying, hey, you need to pay a fair living wage, whether it's to a migrant or whether it's to an American, period. So, I'm just tired of like pushback on all fronts here when I'm trying to like let's play the news video.
okay.
In the day's other headlines, the president of Mexico criticized a U.S. plan to build new sections of border wall. He called it a, quote, step backwards. On Wednesday, the Biden administration formally waived 26 federal laws to allow 20 miles of construction in South Texas, where illegal crossings have surged. At the White House today, President Biden said he still thinks a wall won't work, but he argued Congress gave him no choice.
Money was appropriated for the border wall. I tried to get them to reappropriate, to redirect that money. They didn't, they wouldn't. And in the meantime, there's nothing under the law other than they have to use the money for what it was appropriated. I can't stop that.
The Trump administration erected
Pause
some
it.
450.
Joe Biden's full of shit.
Yeah.
He can't even string a couple sentences together that you can understand them as he's mumbling while he's lying. And while the Democrats are running interference for him, acting like, yeah, no, he couldn't do anything about this. This is completely out of his control. He's the fucking president of the United States. And when he wants something done, when he wanted to reallocate pandemic funds to financing police budgets, he did it. No one stopped him. Okay. He's the president. There's got to be a way. He's not interested in the way. He's interested in passing the buck to Trump and the Republicans and continuing bad policy instead of looking at the path to citizenship being reformed.
Yeah, and he's acting like, oh, we had no other choice because they passed a law to build that wall. Yeah, but you're violating 26 other laws.
Yep.
So what's wrong with those 26 that it's perfectly fine to say, never mind, we didn't mean any of those because we got to build that wall.
Instead of focus on path to citizenship reform. 10 years.
Or anything.
Takes some people 10 years to become a citizen of this country. Although I understand the easiest path to citizenship is go and sign up for our military and risk getting killed before they give you the privilege of citizenship after you've served this country. I mean, talk about like you're literally betting on your life. Okay, I'll go serve in the U.S. military in one of these regions for the chance of becoming a citizen, and I might not even get that chance after I've done the warmongering for this country because I'll get shot in another country before I can even enjoy the benefits of everything I'm trying to sacrifice for here. That's just like that's how much more dystopian does it get than the easiest path to citizenship is to serve in our military if you survive. All right, let's play the rest of the video.
50 miles of border barriers. Today, Mr. Trump posted that President Biden should apologize for, quote, taking so long to get moving. In the meantime, senior administration officials say the Biden administration will resume deporting people to Venezuela if they enter the U.S. illegally. Venezuelan migrants have been arriving at the U.S. southern border in growing numbers. The deportation flights are expected to begin shortly. A panel of federal judges has selected a new congressional map in Alabama's long-running fight over
I'm going to stop this really quick just because she just kind of breezed over that Venezuelan deportations thing that they mentioned there. They weren't supposed to be doing that. There was a whole policy in place where they weren't going to be sending Venezuelans back on direct flights or whatever back to Venezuela. And apparently they changed their tune on that because too many people in blue states are complaining about all the migrants that are getting sent to their sanctuary cities. I'll back it up a little bit here.
Okay.
Portland. A panel of federal judges has selected a new congressional map in Alabama's long-running fight over redistricting and race. The map creates a second district with a substantial Black population. Republican state lawmakers had submitted their own version, but the judges ruled that it failed to fix racial gerrymandering. The late Senator Dianne Feinstein was laid to rest today after a
this is
memorial
done.
service in San
He's not
Francisco.
telling any more about
Mourners
this. Is like
No, she's just doing a rundown, it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right, so we're done with this?
we're done with it.
Okay.
I'm looking to see if I can bring up the map that was in our show thumbnail of what portion of the border he's adding the wall to. And of course, I'm having difficulties. All right, let me read from the AP article. The decision comes as the Biden administration is struggling to manage increasing numbers of migrants at the border and spreading out in the larger U.S. Democratic leaders in New York, Chicago, and Washington are asking for federal. This article is not for. All right, let me just jump ahead and see if I can follow this paragraph. The decision was met with immediate criticism regarding Biden expanding the border wall from immigrant advocates and Mexico President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who called it a setback. It is a setback because it does not resolve the problem, he said. López Obrador had frequently praised Biden in the past because he's the first U.S. president in a long time who has not built any walls. The Department of Homeland Security posted the announcement of the latest wall action in the Federal Registry with few details about the construction in Starr County, Texas, part of a busy border patrol sector seeing high illegal entry. According to government data, about 245,000 illegal crossings have been recorded so far this budget year in Rio Grande Valley sector. It is among the busiest for border crossings in the nation. Now, if I can get this map up that I'm trying to open up, I think that also shows it's the area. Come on, man. I'm sorry, I'm trying to open a window here to share, and it's not opening. November, Ed. I said before the show, November. I'm going to keep reading while the goddamn preview window opens. It is among the busiest for border crossings in the nation. I want to address today's reporting relating to a border wall and be absolutely clear. There is no new administration policy with respect to border walls, Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas said in a statement. From day one, this administration has made clear that a border wall is not the answer. That remains our position, and our position has never wavered. Much of the land along the Rio Grande is subject to erosion and is part of federally protected habitats for plants and animals. A federal project along the river would ordinarily, I see what the problem is. A federal project along the river would ordinarily require a series of environmental reviews. Congress gave U.S. immigration authorities the ability to waive those reviews to put up such barriers more quickly. The Biden administration's decision to rush into border wall construction makes a profound failure, said Jonathan Blazer, director of border strategies at the American Civil Liberties Union. On the campaign trail, President Biden put it best when he said that the border wall is not a serious policy solution, and we couldn't agree more. Instead of upholding this promise, the Biden administration is doubling down on the failed policies of the past that have proven wasteful and ineffective.
by continuing the border wall that every other administration in the last several administrations had been doing on the sly, while Trump was
Ed,
the only one out in the open doing it?
do me a favor, continue the article for me, would you, at the Google link?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I got it. This isn't the first time that the border wall has been constructed under the Biden administration. Homeland Security has also worked on roughly 13 miles into the Rio Grande Valley and another small-scale project to fill small gaps that remain open from prior construction activities in the border wall. But the border wall has been synonymous with Trump's restrictive immigration policies, according to AP. He said he wanted to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it, then declared a national emergency to fund construction when Congress would not appropriate funds for it. Yeah, this is starting to turn into a propaganda article. It's AP, so I'm not shocked at that by now, because we know that the duopoly, they don't really care. They're all fine with immigration being messed up as it is, like we mentioned earlier. Let's see what else is in this article. Trump's allies said the move showed he was right. Trump, the frontrunner for 2024 Republican presidential nomination, weighed in too, saying the administration's actions proved he was right on the wall. As I have stated often over thousands of years, he's not been alive for thousands of years. There are only two things that have consistently worked: wheels and walls. Okay, that's ridiculous. Trump wrote on his social media platform, "Will Joe Biden apologize to me in America for taking so long to get moving? I will await his apology." And Associated Press writer Noman Merchant contributed to this report by Colleen Long, who apparently is from the White House, Law Enforcement and Legal Affairs. Okay, that explains why it took on that kind of slant. Okay. So let's take a look at the chat really quick. Artemis George says the situation is so desperate they want everyone deported. Kathy Power says they pulled this military citizenship scam before and deported them later. How is seeking asylum illegal? And Uncle Warren is wondering where Jerry has gotten himself off to. He's trying to do some technical stuff behind the scenes right now. But I want to thank everybody for joining us on a Friday night Pizza Friday edition of Chicago Corner, where Jerry is the host. I'm just filling in while he's fixing some things behind the scenes, because Jerry wanted to locate a map with that border wall that they're trying to continue. Did you find that map, Jerry?
Yes, I did. It wasn't a matter of finding it. It was a matter of opening my preview window to share it, which apparently is suddenly impossible for my... Here, let me share what I was trying to share here. Okay, so this little red area here, that's where Biden wants to put up more wall. Now, the Rio Grande Canyon here, I'm sure that's practically impossible to cross, as was cited in the article. This down here is the area that Biden's basically, look, the walls are like moving towards the center. Biden is finishing up what Trump couldn't start down here. And I'm sure eventually, these two areas will be filled in too. But we've seen how much border wall we already have that's going to shut down things entirely. So did he really need to decide to spend the funds down here? I don't think so. But I guess that's a big problem area because they don't have canyons and death-defying situations for migrants to cross in the Rio Grande Valley sector. So that's what I was trying to share with everybody.
Well, this is just the start with the walls in America, Jerry. I mean, anyone who's familiar with Escape from New York or Escape from LA knows. We're going to have a ton of walls everywhere because eventually entire states will become prisons.
I just don't know why we don't separate the country right down the middle, Ed, or along lines that would let the red states do their thing and let the blue states do their thing, because this is why we're always dealing with gridlock, impasses, and this whole kayfabe duopoly of two sides acting like they're working in behalf of their representative constituents, but they're not. They're just working together for oligarchy. That's all it is.
Yep.
All right. In other news, Cornel West dropped out of the Green Party. So let's keep score here. First, he was going to run with the People's Party. Then he dropped out to run in the Green Party, which has ballot access in every state. Which,
well, not every, but most.
Almost most states. It would have made it much easier for him to get ballot access, right?
Yes.
And now he's dropped out of the Green Party to run as an independent, which is going to cost millions of dollars more because of claims that the Green Party wasn't allowing Cornel West to be himself within their party. I guess in the Green Party, there's a primary process. So Cornel West would have had to have debated in the Green Party, as a lot of people are expecting or believing that there should be debates in the Democratic Party. There should be. There shouldn't be an anointed candidate in each party. So what strikes me disappointing in this dropout from the Green Party, Ed, given the fact that they are on the ballot in more states than less, which makes it easier for him to get on the ballot.
Yeah.
I listened to his interview with Sabby Sabs tonight. He just didn't have the time to invest in doing the debates or invest in the process that the Green Party requires of their candidates to run, as we expect candidates to run in the primaries of the Democratic and Republican parties, even though those two parties are now closing things down just to anoint a candidate. So, you know, for all of the, I don't know, deflecting that Dr. West has given as far as his reasons for dropping out of the Green Party, what I ask is, why didn't he know this stuff before he accepted the Green Party's invitation to run on their ticket? And I say that with a lot of respect for Dr. Cornel West. In fact, I was kind of on the fence between him and RFK. Now, we've been hearing that RFK is going to announce as an independent in a week. Here we have Cornel West dropping out of the Green Party and announcing as an independent before that. It's almost as if, well, you know, people are going to gravitate towards RFK because he's running as an independent. Kind of steals a little bit of the thunder.
Yeah.
And I think that's not cool. I'm sorry. You should have known ahead of time, if the Green Party wasn't the place for you, not to go hitch your wagon to them, that you're now, this is the second party he's dropped out of to run as an independent. So let me report from ABC News, the official story, and then Ed, we can talk about it. Progressive activist Cornel West leaves the Green Party and will run for president as an independent, as reported by Steve Peoples. Progressive activist will run for president in 2024 as an independent, not as a member of the Green Party. I'm running as an independent candidate for president of the United States to end the iron grip of the ruling class and ensure true democracy, West wrote on the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter. People are hungry for change, he added. They want good policies over partisan politics. We need to break the grip of the duopoly and give power to the people. You could have done that running as a Green. You've just made more work for yourself running as an independent, hoping to raise the money that it's going to cost to get on the ballot in every state. West faces long odds in his quest to become the first candidate not affiliated with a major political party to win the presidency. Well, many would also opine that in regards to RFK, unless he's not running as an independent, maybe joins up with the Libertarian Party. We're not sure if he's going to run as an independent or if he's, I don't know what other parties are left, Ed. But Democrats are quiet. What if he ran as what if he decided he's going to run as a Republican, RFK?
Oh my God.
Against Trump. Maybe that's going to be, who knows? I mean, I doubt it, but
I don't see it happening, but I mean, it's been such a crazy election season so far, and it just started. It's a little ridiculous, really. RFK, yeah, he's gonna be 3 days from now, actually. He's going to be announcing, and most people already know he's going to be running independent. But like you said, he might be running in an independent or third party.
Well, if he runs as a true independent, and I think he might have a better chance at raising the money he needs. I'm not saying Dr. West can't. For both of them, it's going to be an uphill battle. And I think
Yeah.
RFK and his family and his resources as an attorney probably has at least a little bit more money out of the gate to run as an independent to cover the cost that's going to be required to get on the ballot in all the states. Grassroots fundraising, if RFK was relying on grassroots fundraising as Dr. West is, I'd say they both would be spending more time trying to get on the ballots than actually being able to campaign, is because of the way the system is rigged to just support the two-party duopoly. West faces long odds in his quest to become the first candidate not affiliated with a major political party to win the presidency, but Democrats are quietly concerned that he could make a significant impact in the 2024 contest by winning even a small portion of the vote in key states that would otherwise go to President Joe Biden. Some Democrats are still upset about Green Party nominee Jill Stein's presidential bid in 2016, when she won more than nearly 1.5 million votes in an election that Republican Donald Trump won by the slimmest of margins over Democrat Hillary Clinton, which shows if you run as a Green, Cornel West has got far more eyes on him than Jill Stein ever did. Now, you know what I also heard? Now Jill Stein is thinking to run as a Green now that Cornel West dropped, because it's all about Jill Stein.
Wow.
And she doesn't have a shot in hell, but she's going to go dilute the vote because, the Green Party can take votes from the Democratic and Republican nominees.
Yeah, but as far I had a thing to say about the paragraph that started with some Democrats are still upset. Okay, boo-hoo, Democrats. This is called democracy. The people who chose to vote for Jill Stein were never gonna vote for Hillary Clinton. It was never happening. Those votes were not yours.
No, and she was never going to win them over in any way. And she probably would have told them, if you don't like what I'm running on, go vote for somebody else. That's what Biden did. That's what they often do. They ignore the needs of the people or the concerns of the people and tell them, well, you don't like it, don't vote for me, vote for someone else. That's not a way to win votes. Yeah. Meanwhile,
and on the other side of their mouth, they want to call you a spoiler.
Yeah, so. And they deserved your vote. They didn't have to earn it. They were entitled to it. Meanwhile, West may not be the only independent or third-party candidate positioned to influence the 2024 presidential contest. Current Democratic presidential contender Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is widely expected to launch an independent or third-party bid next week. Also, the centrist group No Labels is effectively securing ballot access for a yet-to-be-named candidate. So, maybe that's the group that RFK might be aligning himself with if they're already actively securing ballot access.
Yeah, I haven't done any research on the No Labels to find out who's behind that, but something tells me it's a bunch of independent corporate interests there. Oh, I had a thing. I had a thought about Robert F. Kennedy, and if he does on the 9th declare that he's going to be an independent candidate, that could get confusing because there is actually a party called the Independent Party. And they've confused a number of people on ballots over the years.
Does the Independent Party, as it actually exists, have ballot access across most states?
I don't know. And I imagine that they probably have to try to get access like the Green Party has to every time. Because, you don't start off with every state having access when you're a third party like you do with the Democrats and the Republicans who basically have rigged the game with the way that debates run and the way that voter registration and ballot registration works. Although I hear some of that starting to change on the state levels. There was who was it? I forget her name, but she was recently, I saw a clip from a recent Jimmy Dore show. Someone talked about how she actually helped, what's his name? Ralph Nader get ballot access, and that she knew all that needed to be done and she could help somebody if they had asked her. I'm like, well,
wait, who is this? Jill Stein?
No, I don't know her name. I got to look up the clip, but there was a person that was on talking to Jimmy about something and mentioned that some of her past experience was helping candidates get ballot access.
Oh, was this the guest he had where he's going to be moderating the independent?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I watched. Yeah, I remember. I forgot her name, but yeah, she was a great guest, and I'm glad to hear that Jimmy's going to be a moderator in the independent nominee debates that are going to be coming up. That's just,
yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about someone who's going to give them all an equal hard time. It's going to be Jimmy, and I am like waiting for it. That's going to be great.
Yeah, let me look that up. I should tell everybody what her name was instead of just saying I forgot what it was. So, but I don't know if you've got more article to read while I'm looking.
Do. Let me read it while you're looking. Meanwhile, West may not be the only independent or third-party candidate positioned to influence the 2024 presidential contest. The no labels candidate. We already mentioned that. It remains to be seen whether West can gather the tens of thousands of signatures required to qualify him for the ballot in crucial states without the infrastructure of a formal party. Such signature gathering will fall largely to grassroots volunteers. Good luck with that to either candidate. RFK is going to have, I think RFK is going to be able to afford it because he's got some money in the bank just because of his I'm sure because of his practice and because of his family. I'm not saying he's going to just use his own funds. They're probably going to get grassroots volunteers out there, but still, you have to. The other factor is having the money to pay for all of the volunteers. There are expenses related to gathering volunteers. There are expenses to putting out an army of volunteers to collect signatures. As Dr. West's campaign for president grows, he believes the best way to challenge the entrenched system is by focusing 100% on the people, not on the intricacies of internal party dynamics. Wouldn't you say that's a Democratic Party stance by shutting down their primaries?
Shutting down limiting your, well, that's a problem. All these parties can do whatever the hell they want, which is why a lot of our viewers, I know at least one of our viewers, Uncle Warren, has mentioned he doesn't want parties at all anymore because political parties essentially are a corrupting influence in democracy.
But what I'm saying, though, is the Greens aren't doing that. They are following the process that Dr. West does not want to be a part of it. When he talks about he would rather, he believes the best way to challenge is by focusing 100% on the people, not the intricacies of internal party dynamics. That means the Green Party having multiple nominees primary to get the Green Party nomination. He doesn't want to have any part. He doesn't want to waste the time on that.
I also suspect that some of that internal dynamics has something to do with what some of the members of the party want him to say and not say when he goes out on television and stuff.
That's
and that
possible.
Some of them have issues on his messaging.
Well, then that's where the Green Party ought to shut their fucking mouths because
Cornel
West would have been the best thing to happen to the Green Party had they not decided to muffle him. And if that is the case, then I don't blame him. But we don't know what's going on the inside. When he mentions the intricacies of internal party dynamics, maybe what you're saying speaks to that. And I wouldn't want to have myself muffled if I was invited to run on a party ticket, but then have them tell me what I could or couldn't do. If I had the visibility that Cornel West had, I would say, let me run the way I'm going to run. You knew who I was when you invited me to run on your party platform. Shut the fuck up. Let me do what I have to do. So you've kind of won me over in that way, Ed. Maybe there was something going on there that would stifle who he was, as he said in that interview with Sabby, or as Jill Stein had also kind of speculated on in an interview that she did with Sabby that I also watched.
Oh, by the way, I've got the name of the person who is going to be moderating with Jimmy Dore in the independent candidate thing in December is Christina Tobin. And as I said, when you guys get a chance, go and watch the Jimmy Dore clip where he said it's called Jimmy Dore to moderate presidential debate. And she talks about her past and the things that she's done regarding ballot access. And I'm thinking, why hasn't anybody tapped her in any of the independent or third-party candidates yet to help them get ballot access right now? But maybe it's too early. And also, I think that Cornel West seems to be very inexperienced in doing this type of thing. And it feels like he's relying on too many people to make some decisions for him, which explains why Peter Dow was a choice for him.
Well, Jill Stein was taking responsibility because she thought Peter Dow was a good choice. She shared with Sabby Sabs that she was the one who recommended him because West needed someone with the experience, even if they weren't affiliated with the Democratic Party anymore. And it's like, sorry, Jill, no. I mean,
I think she was too far inside her own sphere and bubble of influence to realize that Peter Dow was a tainted person to put in that position. While I appreciate his come to Jesus basic moments of revising his own stance on things personally, he shouldn't be anywhere near any political campaign.
What's sad is that Dr. West is still carrying water and making apologies for Dow. Well, making apologies, he's defending Dow and all the criticisms and all the grief that Dow's been getting on social media. It's like, Dr. West, he made that bed. Let him sleep in it.
Yeah.
You know, that he's evolving or pretending he's different. The jury's out on that, if he actually is, or if he sees an opportunity to make a lot of money acting as your campaign manager, you know, leading you off a cliff. So West's campaign said in a written statement, our Constitution provides for independent candidates to gain ballot access in all states. And Dr. West has begun seeking ballot access as an independent, unaffiliated with any political party. In the statement, West's campaign also acknowledged continuing to share the Green Party's values and commitment to justice. It is long past time to stop ping-ponging between Republicans and Democrats while millions of our friends and neighbors lack housing, health care, decent jobs, clean air, clean water, nutritious food, and a healthy environment, the campaign said. That's the end of the ABC News article. I also want to share, he also mentioned in his interview with Sabby, making white supremacy more of an issue that apparently other campaigns are not paying attention to. Yes, white supremacy is clearly a major issue that this country has not put behind it. He got into this with Jimmy Dore, though, right? Over why not figure out how to unite voters on the issues that are important to all of them to win and then fix those other things later, as opposed to make it a huge part of the platform now and risk alienating people who think that you're then only advocating for one culture over another in the United States. That's how it could be perceived. I know that's not what he's doing. But when I heard him mention that in his interview with Sabby, I'm like, oh, that's what Jimmy was arguing. That was at the heart of the big blowout between him and Jimmy Dore, was Cornell kind of dismissing the concern that more people might focus on that and not the things that bring us together that need immediate bridging. I don't know. I mean, it could work as a liability. I don't know. I mean, I see both sides of it, which is why when I saw that interview between Jimmy and Dr. West and that point came up, I'm like, neither of them is wrong. They're both right, but neither of them can seem to kind of come to the middle to figure out how do you do that, bringing more people together without alienating more people who are going to worry that that's the main reason you're running, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I had a feeling like Cornel West needed to get a whole bunch of people in a room and have a conversation on what his strategy was going to be, and that didn't really happen. I kind of felt like he was like, well, I guess I'll run for president, and then I'll just go on a bunch of shows and make it up as I go along.
Exactly. That's kind of what I think ended up happening here, because ditching two parties in a row like that, that doesn't show any kind of any homework done ahead of time. You know, before running, you would have representatives of your campaign, first of all, with the People's Party, understand that they don't have enough access. There's going to be more work. Well, it's not going to be more work with the Green Party, but now you're discovering that they're going to want you to message certain ways that they want you to message and avoid certain planks in your platform. That I think that's why he made a point of addressing that white supremacy, which
and there is, and there are strategic reasons for that, right? I mean, if you're starting out as a candidate, you want to appeal to as many people as you can on the base elements of what you believe in without getting too deep into the weeds of all the stuff you believe in. I mean, I would personally focus on the economy and all the things like I can't afford to pay my bills. I can't everything costs too much, that kind of stuff.
That's the main thing that unites all of us. And I understand, I absolutely understand why he can't sweep white supremacy under the rug. No candidate should at all, because it's a problem that I thought naively was behind us, but unfortunately we've discovered in the past decade, with the escalation, the elevation of Trump. It's a nice country on the surface in our ideals, but underneath it's a fucking cesspool with basically the horrible, ugly racial viewpoints that it seemed Trump enabled, and people that finally felt, oh, we can be allowed to be this way again, right? And not fear any shame or not fear any repercussions for it, which unfortunately has shown everybody it's a big issue. So no, he can't ignore that.
No, and he could have been guided by a number of voices in independent media on how to message that so that everybody's on board.
By the same token, again, focusing on the issues that are uniting everybody, and not making that like one of the number one top level things. I think strategically leaning more on that is, I think, unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because you would think, no, wanting to like stop white supremacy and shed a light on it so that we don't tolerate it anymore should be something, the main thing but it's just, let's be realistic and honest. It's not unless we like decide to put a line across the country, the red and blue states. So I just don't know that his strategy or whoever's advising him, if that was an element to the Green Party saying, no, we don't want you like leaning on that. We want you leaning more on economics and all this other stuff that unites everybody, or that they're more focused on. Maybe that was the reason he just said, no, I'm not going to do it. Because that was the main point of contention with him and Jimmy in their argument, their debate. So, all right, well, that's what's happening with Dr. Cornel West. It's going to be interesting to see where things are 4 days from now after RFK makes his big announcement. Is it going to be an independent party run? Is he joining another party that might have ballot access? Let's go to the live chat and see what's going on there before we get into our next story. And actually, before we get into our next story, Ed, can you bring up the video instead of the...
I'm sorry, Jerry. I failed to hit the Rockfin button. I just hit that now.
Okay.
I am sorry. It is streaming. It's just on a big delay while it streams over there. Sorry to anybody just tuning in on Rockfin.
Did it start at the beginning of the program, or
I believe that's how it works. If it didn't, I'll try and make corrections to that.
It doesn't matter. Just let it run.
No.
Okay. We don't have time.
It's running now.
Okay. We have some comments in the Rumble live chat. Let's see here. Dominic has joined in. Thanks for joining us, Dominic. All political parties are private organizations that are autocratic by design. The most important issue for voters. And by the way, Ed, once again, get the video up for the next story, not the...
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The most important issue for voters is that after elections, they have no voice in government. Constitutionalpolling.org. The only platform for a representative is to explain how he or she will communicate with their constituents to learn how they should vote on legislation. Yep. Kathy mentioned also No Labels fundraised tens of millions of dollars raised from wealthy Wall Street types and C-suite executives who normally vote for the GOP. It plans to raise a total of $70 million. Okay. Joe Lieberman was one of the founding chairmen of No Labels. Well, that would suggest he leans neoliberal right, though, as Kathy just kind of filled in the blanks with money that was raised by wealthy Wall Street types. Okay. All caught up on the live chat. Shifting into local and national news. I mean, local because he was a Chicago Bear, nationally because he rose to greater prominence even after he played with the Bears in the NFL as a commentator and celebrity. Sadly, Dick Butkus passed away. And we have some video from the NFL regarding Dick Butkus's career. And I'll let Ed run that.
Everything Dick Butkus did was memorable. He was Moby Dick in a goldfish bowl.
Chicago's vocational high school. From there, he went to the University of Illinois. He played the game just the way it should be played.
His 9-year career stands apart as the single most sustained work of devastation ever committed on a football field by anyone, anywhere, anytime.
I would think it'd be pretty hard to find someone who loved to play the game more than I did.
Dick was not satisfied with just an ordinary tackle. He had to hit you, pick you up, drive you, and grind you into the ground.
The greatest linebacker ever to play the game, Dick Butkus.
Dick Butkus football was never a game, but a street fight. A place for all-out, no-holds-barred warfare. Butkus was the most destructive defender in the game.
The man was unbelievable. His whole damn life was football.
I'm really not the tough macho guy that was only during the game. And no matter how hard you try to explain that, sure you were, So.
When I played for you, I gave it the very best I could.
Well, he was more than a football player, and Block Club Chicago gets into that. So Block Club, after looking at that retrospective of his career, he was 80 years old, described as the ultimate bear, and this is reported by Mac Liederman. The Hall of Fame linebacker died in his sleep Thursday at his Malibu, California home. Butkus has long been a figure heralded as quintessentially Chicago, from his unforgiving hard hits on the field to his gruff solo mustache to his formative days bruising opponents at Chicago Vocational High School on the far south side and later for the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I always thought it was Champaign-Urbana. Did they just reverse that? I don't know.
Depends on who you ask.
I guess they're just doing this to confuse me in an otherwise already confusing night of tech issues. Team chairman George H. McCaskey called Butkus the ultimate bear. He was Chicago's son, McCaskey said in the statement. He exuded what our great city is about, and not coincidentally what George Halas looked for in a player: toughness, smarts, instincts, passion, and leadership. Butkus spent his NFL career as a Bear from 1965 to 1973. The Bears never had a winning season during that time, but that didn't stop Butkus from rumbling his way to 22 interceptions and 27 fumble recoveries and routinely making his bone-crushing rage plays that have become the calling card of what a formidable Bears defense should be like. Chicagoans have debated that Butkus is the most feared player in NFL history and maybe the best inside linebacker of all time. On the night of his passing, the Bears won their first game in their last 15 tries. He's a Bears legend. Quarterback Justin Fields said after the game, which he said the team dedicated to Butkus, he will never be forgotten. And the Block Club Chicago article goes on to share a lot of social media tweets. I'm going to skip the first one because, quite frankly, I don't care what Barack Obama has to say. Mayor Brendan Johnson shared, "We lost a legend today. Dick Butkus was a son of Chicago who embodied the strength and the tenacity of his hometown. With every snap he played on the gridiron, he was a true monster of the Midway, but also an actor, a commentator, and a statesman for all things representing our beloved blue and orange. My heart is with Butkus, the Butkus family, and everyone he impacted throughout a tremendous life and career. He was a giant of a player and a man, and we will always remember his giant love and dedication to the city of Chicago." A lot of really nice testimonials on social media there, linked in our show notes below to the Block Club Chicago article that also has all of these tweets embedded. Sad day. Best wishes to his family. I'm not a huge football fan by any stretch, but I knew who Dick Butkus was. I enjoyed him probably more seeing him as a celebrity after he retired from the Bears, and he was just a really big, magnanimous, charismatic personality in everything that he did.
Yeah, personally, I enjoyed him in the Miller Lite commercials. But also, I have a little story that my father would tell. That back when my father was a photographer for his high school newspaper, his high school was on the south side. Some will remember Fanger High School. I think it's still there. Dick Butkus's team was playing Fanger. My dad was, I think, in the sidelines taking photos for the paper. Butkus plowed right into him.
Oh my God.
I said, yeah, I mean, did he damage you? It's
Yeah.
like,
Was he badly injured?
It's like I don't remember the full story, but I'm thinking he's like he was just, completely dazed for a little while because, I mean, you get a guy like Dick Butkus is just going full speed and all of a sudden he's heading toward you. You don't realize he's heading toward you until it's too late.
Did they have any words afterwards? Did he say?
I gotta ask him if he can remember, because I want to get that full story if he still has that in his brain before
We could share it
before
Tuesday.
he doesn't remember that anymore. But yeah, I want to ask him about it, because my Swiss cheese brain doesn't always remember the stuff that my parents told me when I was younger either. So. But I distinctly remember him telling me that Dick Butkus plowed into him during high school when he was taking photos. So I was hoping that he would have a photo of like part of that somewhere.
Oh,
I think
have
there
that
might
actual.
be.
Yeah, have that
Yeah.
actual photo, but right before it happened.
Yeah, I think there might be a newspaper article. I'm gonna have to dig through and see if he's still got something like where they mentioned that he ran into him or something. But little story there about Dick Butkus, and sad that he's gone, but maybe he had something to do with that latest Bears win.
Well, let's also say this: the guy lived a really full and fulfilling life, and not that anybody wants to see anybody go at the age of 80 or even after that. He was blessed with a really great life, career, friends, family, and respect from people, in the football culture and outside of it. So a life well lived. We can all only hope and aspire to have the same thing after we shuffle off this mortal coil, right?
Yes.
All right. Transitioning into our next story. This was shared on Twitter, which led me to do a deep dive on what the fuck, what is this about? What's going on here? So Anita Padilla TV shared, well, this is not good. City leaders should do all they can to keep the Chicago Mercantile Exchange here. It makes no sense at all. Don't they realize the number of traders who live and work here? What they spend, the taxes, revenue generated, and what we stand to lose? Yeah, we do. We know that these traders don't want to pay any kind of like a penny transaction tax, which would help our budget shortfalls. They feel entitled to things that they haven't earned simply because they've got so much money, and they think that that's what's important. Their money, where they live, their status, and not the commons or the rest of the citizens of Chicago, while they probably also manage to use other loopholes to get out of paying their fair share of taxes. And what does this all relate to? It relates to Mayor Johnson's policy, the real estate tax for properties that exceed what is it?
The transfer tax. The transfer tax. Yeah. Okay.
To do what? To help the homeless. Doesn't it say something that members of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange don't give a shit about the homeless, that they don't want to pay a little bit extra on their real estate to basically help solve a crisis? That's even more in the public's eye as a result of resources that they weren't given that we're now giving migrants coming to Chicago, as we've been prioritizing things. We've never prioritized the homeless. And as I said in the last program, at least Brandon Johnson's finally focused on doing something to help resolve the homeless crisis, as opposed to just look the other way as previous mayors have.
I have not read the Cranes article that they're referring to there, but I mean, he had been threatening to leave every time they try to do anything, excuse me, that affects the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and
their pocketbooks. That affects their pocketbooks. That's CEO Terry Duffy. He's the
Sorry.
Chicago Mercantile Exchange CEO. And
Yeah,
he claims he liquidated every piece of real estate in the state to avoid paying this tax, I think.
Sorry, I was mid-thought and then I couldn't talk. I had to take a drink. My thinking here is that he's taking his actions of liquidating his real estate and blaming them on Brandon Johnson because they have a ton of empty real estate down there that they don't want to give up for any other use. And so he's making an excuse with this real estate transfer tax thing that the city council just passed as a scapegoat for the real reason that he's trying to liquidate all this stuff, which I believe, at least this is what I'm speculating, what I believe is that they have a ton of empty offices down on Wall Street, down, in the, what's it called? The corridor, the LaSalle Street corridor.
Yeah.
And that they're probably just trying to use this as an excuse to take a jab at Brandon Johnson in Chicago, while they probably always planned on liquidating these properties and moving CME somewhere else.
Well, let me get into the article from Yahoo Finance. We can just leave the tweet up. I'll just read from the article.
Okay.
Since we've got an image of Johnson and Terry up there. This is reported by Catherine Doherty and Isis Almeida. On Yahoo Finance, CME head Duffy warns new taxes threatens Chicago's recovery. Which part of Chicago's recovery? The haves or the have-nots? And this comes via Bloomberg. Few businesses have Chicago roots as deep as the Chicago Mercantile Exchange Group, Incorporated. The company has been based in the city for more than a century, and its very name derives from the location. The letters refer to the company's Chicago Mercantile Exchange business. Scrolling down, but Chief Executive Officer Terry Duffy doesn't feel constrained by those ties, with many of the exchange's leases coming up for renewal in 2025. I liquidated every piece of real estate in the state, Duffy said in an interview this week. I have leases while I'm in an advantageous position because now I can renegotiate. They're all coming due. We like Chicago. There's no reason for us to want to leave, but at the same time, if the atmosphere gets to the point where it's intolerable, we have no choice. His commitment to Chicago is being tested as stubbornly high crime rates and a slew of taxes, including a financial transaction levy proposed by Mayor Brandon Johnson. I haven't caught up with this. Now he's proposing a financial transaction levy because we were talking about.
What's the date of this article?
This is this week.
Oh, it's from today. Okay.
From today. I haven't heard. We talked about this before the election. He was very, very demure in talking about a financial transaction levy on the mercantile exchange, right? Like whatever amount of cents per transaction to help raise funds. Now that he's referencing this, when did Mayor Johnson propose that? I haven't seen it in the news, but the article says it has him considering his options. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has already said he opposes the tax proposal, but he won't be at the helm forever, Duffy said. So he seems to be leaning all this on a financial transaction levy that I haven't heard anyone reporting on recently.
Well, the transaction tax apparently is going to be a no-go because it's some kind of violation of the Illinois Constitution. But the real estate transfer tax city council just passed it, didn't they?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So either the article is wrong in how it's referencing what his beef is about, or he's referencing something that is irrelevant.
Or they're quoting him from an earlier interview. I'm trying to find out when this transfer tax goes into effect, because if he's doing a timing thing where he's trying to sell all these things before he has to actually pay the tax.
And I thought that the tax was only for residential properties, not business properties. Maybe I was wrong on that?
I'm asking Bing right now. I know I should there's probably people mad at me for using AI to ask questions to have it do the research for me, but it's just the tool, man. I'm just asking it to pull up the data. I'm not asking it to, take over the show. So I'm let's see, where is it?
I'm going to continue the article, Ed. So
ahead.
let me finish what I'm saying and then bring up what the research shows you.
Mm-hmm.
As for the mayor, Duffy said he's met with Johnson once since he was elected in April and is willing to throw his arms around him to help him succeed. But we don't agree on anything, Duffy said. This following interview has been edited for clarity and length. What would you have done if you were mayor? What Duffy said, I'd be doing things a lot differently. You can't walk outside and not have commerce in one of the largest cities in the world. Who's going to pay the taxes on these large buildings that are now vacant? You need to figure out ways to get people back into the cities. Can you imagine trying to convert everything into residential? It'd be unattainable, and that cost would be extraordinary. I'd like to see us go away from some of the taxes that we already have in place. Let people not pay a sales tax and compete with online. If you want to sell it online, then you pay a tax. And in the store where you're employing people, you don't pay a tax. But let's think logically about how we're going to get people back into work and into a society. We don't have a society right now. Okay? And how do you create the society, Mr. Duffy? Are there places trying to lure Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and did you speak with Texas? Everybody runs to Texas because there's no taxes down there. Governor Greg Abbott was very plain. I think he said on your network, the benefits of being in Texas. I told him I understood the benefits of pretty much every state in the union. I have a lot of clients in Texas. I like working with my clients that come out of Texas. That was the end of my conversation. He didn't offer me anything. I didn't ask for anything either. You've overseen a lot of acquisitions. Are there more to come? We did put ourselves into one of the strongest positions of any exchange. I'm a AAA rated institution with very little debt. I get shopped a lot of deals. We have the capacity, if we thought it was right to do it, we'd run the firm for the benefit of the long term. So when it comes to acquisitions, I would never do anything that I didn't think was in the best interest of my shareholders. Then it goes on asking about FTX. I don't care. Are you using AI? I don't care. Where is Terry Duffy in 5 to 10 years? I don't care. Here's what I think the bottom line is. This guy has got more money than he can spend over probably 5 lifetimes.
Yep.
And if he does not want to pay whatever taxes are going to help the local economy and the local infrastructure, I say don't let the door slap you on the ass on the way out. Get out. You're not loyal to the city. You're only loyal to yourself. You're only loyal to however much wealth you can hoard, because you've got plenty to last you over 5 fucking lifetimes. And if you feel it bruises your ego, you've got to pay a little more with this transaction tax, then get the fuck out. I'm just so tired of these rich assholes who, because they make a lot of money and they figure out other loopholes to avoid paying taxes when a new tax comes down the road to help the infrastructure, the economy of where they live and the commons that they get the benefit of, they cry and they whine. It's too much. Just go.
Okay, so even after city council approves it, it goes to a ballot referendum in March. So the earliest it could become law is spring, which means they wouldn't make the adjustments to the real estate transfer tax until that, at least then.
Which is 2024.
Yeah.
So he's referencing trying to get rid of all of his properties before 2025.
Yeah.
At least he did in the article.
Yeah, so theoretically they could still hit him with that increase, which I mean, I looked at the details of that increase. We reported on it. It didn't seem unreasonable to me.
No,
in fact, it was, for most people, it was going to be a cut in that transfer tax.
Well, we'll have to see how this plays out. I'm just constantly astounded at all these rich assholes who, we have more tag, we don't want to pay taxes. We're looking at Texas where we don't have to pay. You know what the most unpatriotic thing in the world is, Ed? Not being willing to pay your taxes to improve the country, the government, and the local state that you live in. To me, look, nobody's happy about paying high taxes, although the burden of high taxes normally fall on you and me. But we pay it because that's our duty. And everybody who's got a lot of money doesn't want they're rich because they don't pay any taxes, or they figure out how to pay the least amount of taxes as possible while they hoard all their wealth.
Well, and people are of a number of different minds about taxes. Some people feel taxation is theft. Some people feel that we're not being represented. So why the hell are we being taxed?
That's my issue.
You know, my main issue is taxation without representation and the inequity of the taxation. So like, I'm being overtaxed. These rich assholes are being undertaxed because they can take it. The rest of us, you know, by us being overtaxed or overburdened with debt or whatever, we're becoming a drag on the economy. And you would think they would want the economy to do well for them and their companies. There's a disconnect there.
Yeah. Yep. I'm trying to get the next story up. Why don't you bring up Ray Lopez's tweet?
I can do that.
I'll use the archive to open up the Tribune story that I can't afford to subscribe to.
So Raylo.
Yeah, so there was an important vote today on abolishing sub-minimum wage. And what is sub-minimum wage? It's restaurant employees being allowed the allowance of restaurant employees who bust their asses to be paid less than $15 an hour and only rely on and live off their wages. Okay, that's what this vote was for. And of course, Ray Lopez, was doing everything he could to subvert the vote or push it off so that, this very, very important vote couldn't go through. What did Ray say? I can't read it there. Oh, there it is.
He says, rules matter. Procedure matters. With such an important topic, why would City Council risk jeopardizing the moment for the sake of an illegitimate, quick political win?
He's calling a living wage a quick political. He's granting a living wage to our essential restaurant workers an illegitimate, quick political win. That's how much Ray Lopez values restaurant workers, sub-minimum wage workers throughout the city.
Yeah,
now,
and go ahead.
Despite his effort to try to push that vote off, the ordinance phasing out the minimum wage for tip workers passed 36-10. And we do have in that tweet, we do have here, I think I can bring it up here. Let me share my screen. Present my screen. Yeah, what is that, his letter to try to
you want to look at the letter? I was.
Why don't you read from the letter while I get the other graphic ready?
Okay. October 5th, to Leah Bartlett, Public Access Counselor, Office of the Attorney General of Illinois, regarding potential violation of the Open Meetings Act by the City Council of the City of Chicago. So Raylo's totally going procedural on this situation.
Yeah.
And for those of you who just want background on this, this was a vote that was supposed to take place on Wednesday, but there was some technical glitch in some writing or some way it was filed. So they had to delay the vote until Friday. And that's why Ray is pissed about it.
Well, before we go to his letter, let me read from let's go in a little bit more detail so people understand what was at stake here. Let's just put the screen up, you and me, and I'll read from the Chicago Tribune article by Alice Yin. Chicago becomes largest U.S. city to independently abolish sub-minimum wage for tipped workers. Chicago on Friday became the largest American city to independently require that tipped employees make full minimum wage, following a relatively easy city council vote that delivered one of Mayor Brandon Johnson's biggest political wins for his progressive agenda. So naturally, Ray Lopez was against it, right? Giving sub-minimum wage workers a fair living wage because of procedure, as he was arguing in that letter we're going to bring up. In a 36-10 vote, aldermen approved the measure that advocates said was direly needed for the lowest paid service workers and that opponents countered would backfire, causing some employees in the service industry to be paid less and lead to higher menu prices and staff cuts. That's what their concerns are. Right.
Uh-huh.
The ordinance becomes law immediately, but the full impact won't take effect for 5 years. The Friday vote was originally supposed to take place Wednesday, but a clerical error delayed the meeting. Starting next July, the gap between tipped and minimum wages will shrink from 60% to 40%. Each year after, that gap will shrink by 8% until parity is reached by July 1st of 2028. Los Angeles, which has a larger population than Chicago, already bans a sub-minimum wage for tipped workers, but that's under a California state law that requires employers to pay those employees a full minimum wage. Besides California, Alaska, Minnesota, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington have also abolished the lower tip wage, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. In a celebratory post-council news conference, Johnson said the vote made Friday an incredibly historic day. The ordinance embodies Chicago's values of uplifting working people and addressing systemic inequities in the restaurant and hospitality industry, which in turn will create a better economic future for tipped workers and our city, the mayor said. And I'm going to toss something in here editorially. The restaurant industry in the city of Chicago is still getting pandemic bailouts. They get grants left and right. Every time we see the Cook County Grow Grant or any other grants post-pandemic making up for losses from the pandemic, look, man, people started returning to restaurants a year and a half, 2 years ago. Businesses caught up. So the fact that restaurants keep getting these grants when their businesses have caught up, but they are against paying their employees more than a sub-minimum wage, I am applauding this from the highest rooftops, because it's good to know now that all this free grant money that's going to the restaurant industry is going to have to start going towards the employees that slave to make these businesses successful, to provide the service for these businesses that don't want to pay them a fair living wage to begin with. So that's my editorial in the middle of this story. Many of the people who are standing in support with us today, these are heads of households and anchors of communities who are finally receiving a bit more of the respect and dignity that they deserve. Ahead of the vote, progressive aldermen stood up and shared anecdotes that fueled their decision to favor the new law on what they described as a poignant day. Alderperson Jesse Fuentes, 26, one of the measure's lead sponsors, said the sub-minimum wage for tipped employees has long been a driver of income inequality. She pointed to the sea of pink-clad service workers behind her who were recruited by the National One Fair Wage campaign to cheer on the ordinance. Today, our tipped workers will win, Fuentes said. Look at the room, look at the room. Those are black and brown faces that are asking for a raise. Some aldermen also lamented that the moment did not come sooner, such as when the city council raised the minimum wage to $15 under former Mayor Lori Lightfoot, but did not alter the pay floor for tipped workers. Alderwoman Rosanna Rodriguez-Sanchez of the 33rd said when the vote passed 4 years ago, a man sitting in the back of the public gallery in the council chamber yelled, "You left out tipped wage." He yelled that so many times, and I felt that in my heart. I knew that the moment was an opportunity for us to do that. And we didn't do that. It took us 4 more years and a progressive movement to push for this and be able to pass it now. Wherever he is, this vote is dedicated to you today. But Alderwoman Nicole Lee of the 11th said the small business owners in her ward that encompass Chinatown, where family restaurants have served as a time-honored engine for economic mobility, implored her to oppose the measure, even though they knew it would likely pass. Well, wait, if they're family restaurants, I would imagine they don't hire a lot of outside employees, because I've been to Chinatown. Well, some of the bigger restaurants, yeah, they've got larger wait staffs, right? But
they're gonna make, they're like, don't make me pay my kid a living wage. They've been working off tips all this time. They didn't know.
My constituents there feel this is going to hurt more than it's going to help our local economy, Lee said. Because of that, I'm going to be a no. Well, Alderwoman Lee, you're wrong. A man in the public section then cried out, "Thank you for saving my job." Other opponents have argued evening out the minimum wage across all industries will cause people to tip less, hurting servers' bottom lines. No, I don't think so. I think you tip when you appreciate your server and they're doing a good job, because you know they're making like the least amount of money to begin. And this is still not a lot of money. Okay. No. This minimum wage that they're getting is still not a lot of money. So as long as I see any server, I always tip more than I'm required to, because I know they are struggling in a job that is underappreciated and underpaid to begin with.
Yeah, and anybody out there thinking, well, I should start tipping less now. No, because for one, they're just going with the incrementalism on this one. They're not even switching over to the 15 in year one. They're basically making the workers have to suffer several years longer while the employers ramp up their adjustment to the new way that things are supposed to go in the city. And yeah, I mean, look, if you've got a business model that requires you to have people working for substandard wages, maybe you got to adjust your business model. But it's hard enough. What is it, 1580 now? Is that the minimum now that they got in Chicago? Something like that. That's not a living wage.
No, it's not. It's not. It's obscene is what it is. Alderman Nicholas Pizzato of the 38th said, instead of raising the minimum wage for tip workers, customers should be, quote unquote, educated on how to tip better. Quote, I believe we're going to get destroyed with this. Okay, Alderman Pizzato, how do you educate customers to tip better? How do you do that if they're not already inclined to just like toss $1 there when they should be leaving more, simply because they're obligated to leave a tip, not understanding that the workers are already making a sub-minimum wage? That's just such a bullshit comment to protect probably the constituents who are voting for him in the restaurant industry there.
What's happening is you're going to have small business owners that are complaining about it because they bought into the propaganda that if they have to pay more wages, that they're going to have to cut jobs and all this other stuff. And that may start happening because it was going to start happening anyway. They would have done it anyway. They're already looking for a way to replace you with automated robots and AI. So for people who think, oh, okay, well, this is going to hurt businesses, we have to rethink how businesses work now. And that's not just local level Chicago, not just state level, it's federal level. And we got to wake some people up and get them in the mindset of realizing that when machines and automation starts to take over, and when we have to start requiring people to actually get a living wage so they can pay their bills and contribute effectively to this economy, they're going to have to make some changes as to how we get paid and how people get funded. And maybe certain businesses and industries are going to have to get supplemented by the federal government until they can figure out a way to do it on their own.
Wasn't it last show we shared a social media tweet from somebody that was talking about Walmart? That, they have you do all your bagging, they have you do all your work at the checkout counter. Then you're supposed to stop and give your receipt to somebody out the door because they don't want to pay checkout people to like do your checkout. And they're like, no, man, if I'm going to do the job of checkout and you've issued me a receipt, I'm out of there. I'm leaving. This was never my job. And they're phasing out so many checkout. I mean, I go into Walmart to buy my groceries just because that's the only place I can afford it. There's more selection there than when I do go down to the corner to my local small grocer and buy produce and vegetables there. I prefer to go there because it's affordable and, they're in the neighborhood. But when I got to buy other staples, I got to go to Walmart. Not that because I like it, but because it's the only cheap place to buy shit that I can afford right now. But yeah, it's all self-checkout. And one person at the door who wants to see your receipt and, does the performative, oh yeah, everything on your receipt is in your cart. It's not. It's ridiculous. It's just all performative.
Yeah, well, and now they're even adapting to that where they're getting rid of that receipt checker in some stores. Like go into a Target sometime at the self-checkout area, and they'll have a person there like who will help you if you're having trouble scanning something. But essentially, they just have cameras watching you, seeing every single thing that you're doing, everything you scan, every item you put in your bag or your cart. And
but who's
so they don't have to.
But who's watching those cameras then? Is it just recorded? Is it to make you think you're being watched while they're not paying anybody, even though it might be running digitally recording it? I mean, how do you, it's like,
good question.
Really? I think it's more to make you think someone's watching and not paying anybody, because then they're saving more money, because you're going to have to pay someone watching a security camera the same amount of money you're going to pay someone at the checkout counter actually scanning and making sure everything you're taking out of the store is paid for.
Mm-hmm. Or they're recording it so that, if someone lets their security know that they saw somebody shoplifting, then they have evidence that you didn't check out.
Who's
You
gonna
know,
do
it's
that? No one's going to do that.
you know how stores are. They're more concerned.
I've never seen anybody snitching on someone saying, "Hey, that person didn't scan that item. Go look at the security video."
You get those people who are all, law and order and everything's fine. And how dare people actually try and, survive?
Dude, I've been at a Walmart checkout counter, self-check, dropped something from my cart and the person behind me while it's out of my arm's reach and it's in their reach. They don't even bend down to pick it up for me. So nobody's paying attention to what you're doing. This has just been my experience, but okay. Let me get back to the article, though, because I like what Alderman Daniel Espada said. Alderman Daniel Espada of the First, who represents the neighborhoods of Wicker Park and Bucktown that are hubs for restaurants, and mucho, big time hubs for restaurants, rejected the business community's anxieties by declaring to any servers listening in, "I don't need to balance my bill on the backs of your poverty. The sky maybe is going to fall in when we pass this ordinance, but the sky didn't fall in when we fought for and won a $15 minimum wage," Espada said, before listing other pro-labor ordinances passed in Chicago. "The sky keeps on not falling. Somehow I have a feeling that the sky is not going to fall today either." Well, bless his heart. What a great quote. Johnson campaigned on the issue and this summer donned a one fair wage apron at a progressive conference serving appetizers in solidarity with the conference's catering staff. The restaurant lobby, a longtime foe of the effort and similar attempts to do away with lower tip wage, begrudgingly accepted the deal from the mayor's administration that increased the phase-in from 2 years to 5. It shouldn't even be 5, man. It should have been 2 years. 5 years is how long it took when Rahm Emanuel proposed $15 an hour minimum wage and then Lori Lightfoot instituted. It's just fucked up, man. Because you know what? The cost of living is still going up. So the incremental raise in this sub minimum to minimum is still not going to be enough money in 5 years because the cost of living is going to rise in 5 years. Everything's going to inflate in 5 years. That was after
but once they get to parity with minimum wage, then they could just decide to raise the wage.
Yeah.
But still, this 5-year bullshit, it's dumb.
The restaurant lobby, a longtime foe of the effort and similar attempts to do away with the lower tippage, begrudgingly accepted the deal from the mayor's administration that increased that basically capitulated and increased the phase from 2 to 5 years. That was after the head of the Illinois Restaurant Association, Sam Toya, floated a counter proposal to raise subminimum wages only at restaurants earning more than $3 million in annual revenue. That offer failed to gain traction. I'm thinking about that because those bigger restaurants can afford it while smaller restaurants might not be able to, the truly independent ones, but it should be equal across the board. It should be equal across the board for all workers anywhere.
Yeah. And why did he happen to pick 3 million as the number? Are they able to fudge around that number easily? Is that why he picked 3?
Obviously, a lot of restaurant owners, operators will tell you the last couple of years have been really rough coming out of the pandemic, but they're not mentioning they're getting all that county and state grant money. There's still grants open for small businesses. I know because I applied for one. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but I'm not in the restaurant industry. But I'm constant. But you know what? So I applied for the small business grant, the Cook County Grow Grant. That's for all small businesses. But there are probably, to that one Cook County Grow Grant, 5 to 10 other grants that are only targeted towards the restaurant industry in Cook County State. All the grants are for the restaurant industry, not other small. The Cook County Grow Grant is, I think, one of the only grants that's geared toward any small business, not just restaurants. So restaurants have got access to so many grants that were created as a result of the pandemic that they're just, shoveling in the money while still claiming they can't afford to pay their workers. I call bullshit. Total bullshit. There's only 2 things you can control in the restaurant industry: your product costs and your labor costs. There could definitely be people cutting back on labor, is what Toya said. However, the mayor's floor leader, Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa, 35th, has argued raising the minimum pay for tip workers is good for business. We have decades of research. Los Angeles, Minneapolis, cities across this nation with economies very similar to ours have already instituted one fair wage with tips on top. He said during a council committee meeting last month. Restaurants are opening up, restaurants are growing, restaurants are employing more workers, and workers are making the same or more in tips. The ordinance was, so here's where we get to Raylo. The ordinance was originally supposed to get a final vote on Wednesday, but the city clerk's office failed to post the item on the council's agenda with enough advance notice as legally mandated. A group of moderate and more conservative members tried to stall an attempt to reschedule the vote during the Wednesday council meeting, but were squashed by Johnson allies. And that's where we have Raylo's letter to try to, prevent or subvert or delay this. And can you read from this, Ed?
Yeah, I just want to quickly mention in the quote where they said there's only two things you can control in the restaurant industry, product costs and labor costs. There was a third thing, and it's your profit margin.
Good point.
Okay. So getting to the letter from Raylo.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can make this bigger here. There we go. Councilor Bartelt. Is it Bartelt or Bartlett? Oh, he typed Bartelt. Okay.
Bartelt, yeah.
We, the undersigned members of the City Council of the City of Chicago, do hereby request an expedited opinion and, if necessary, rule on the possible violation of the Open Meetings Act.
That was his priority.
Yeah.
Not the people that needed more wages. Procedure. Looking for a technicality to make this thing stop. At the October 4th, 2023 regular meeting of the City Council, action was taken on an item not previously included in the agenda posted 48 hours in advance of the meeting in question. And then he lists the item 2, commonly known as the one fair wage, was inadvertently left out of the published agenda. This omission was recognized publicly by Alderman Michael Rodriguez as part of his Committee on Workforce Development report. This fact of error was later again acknowledged by Mayor Brandon Johnson's floor leader, Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa. Under direct... Can I interrupt you? Yeah, go ahead. Ed, I want to make one point. This is what he decided was more important to spend his time doing, was drafting this letter to put off this important vote to help not all his own constituents earn a better wage. This was his priority. How much time was wasted into, dictating, drafting and dictating this letter to put a vote off because of a simple error that thankfully, he was subverted and the vote went through. But let's continue to listen to what Raylo, Oatmeal Boy, had more time to spend on than actually doing some good by his constituents.
Yeah, and this helps me work on my impression. So thank you. Okay. Under direct questioning by Alderman Brendan Riley, Alderman Rodriguez confirmed the one fair wage ordinance was added to the agenda less than 24 hours before the meeting. Alderman Riley and Alderman Raymond Lopez pointed out that matters to be voted on by the City Council must be properly noticed before any vote can take place. As the item in question was added within the 48-hour notice period, it did not qualify as an actionable item on the agenda and therefore not subject to action by the body. And that's, that was page 1.
Do you know what this? Well, we don't have to go to page 2, but you know what this reminds me of? All this procedural stuff.
Blowjob! Blowjob!
Although I should jump over there really quick just so we can see who signed it.
Okay.
Because these are all the people who decided that.
I was going to get into what the vote was like. Also, I got rid of the oatmeal, but I was also going to get into. Okay. I've got the screen up as to who voted against it, so we can also hold them accountable.
Oh, okay. We should bring that up. Yeah. Essentially, it's the usual cast of characters in here, who basically would rather deal with a procedural issue than actually throw a very tiny bone to the restaurant workers industry. Brian Hopkins, Anthony Beal, Peter Chico, Marty Quinn, Ray Lopez, Derek Curtis, Silvana Tabares, Scott Wagaspack, actually a little shocking to me, but not entirely shocking.
No, not entirely shocking.
Anthony Napolitano, Brendan Riley, and Nicholas Bozzato.
Now, ironically, there are 11 people that signed this letter. Only 10 are on the record voting against it. And I'm looking at the actual votes here as shared by Aaron Hegarty over on Twitter, and I'm not seeing. It says 36 yeas, 10 nays, 0 recused, but I'm not seeing where Lopez is. What ward is Lopez in?
What is he? Isn't he 40th?
I'm not seeing him.
No, that's Andre. Ray Lopez.
Oh, he's in. So he voted yes for it, though. He ended up voting yes after trying to push. Yeah, after trying to push it off in that letter. Clearly, he realized, well, they're going to vote for it. It's going to look really shitty for me if I vote against it, even though I tried to push it off on a matter of procedure. So he voted for it. What did he do? He looked at how he was going to make an opportunity for himself after he tried to push it off.
So, yeah, he was trying to have it both ways.
Wow, oatmeal boy. Wow. There he is. Both sides of his mouth, trying to act like he's on the side of people, and then he's just such a phony, man. He's just so oily. I remember meeting him in person at the petition drop-off, and I'm just like, my skin crawled when I met him.
Just, yeah, so oil, like snake oil, oily, yeah. You mean? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what Aaron Hegarty reported. And let me see, there was one other link here. So that shows how the vote went. Let's also identify and shame those who voted against it. Anthony Beale. Oh no, he was absent. Brian Hopkins, Nicole Lee, Marty Quinn, Matthew O'Shea, Scott Waguespack, Nicholas Spozzato, Samantha Nugent, Anthony Napolitano, Brandon Riley, and of course Alderman Voldemort, James Gardner.
Yeah, and I think I saw that Conway was not present to make the vote. Be nice if we actually could determine whether they just didn't vote or whether they abstained from voting.
Well, they do have a note there that you can abstain, but okay, so I guess this other link that we had in the show notes got deleted, so it is irrelevant. It was an Aaron. It was from Aaron Hegarty, but maybe she updated something and deleted something else. That's possible. So the last paragraph of the Chicago Tribune article states the city's minimum wage rate is $15.80 per hour for businesses with 21 or more workers and $15 per hour for those with 4 to 20 workers. So there's a little bit of a break. Under the old law, tipped workers were paid 60% of the minimum wage rate. And if a tipped worker's wages with the addition of tips did not equal at least the full minimum wage, the employer had to make up the difference. Just pay people a fucking minimum wage. Just stop with the, 60% of this and 40% of that, and then we'll make this up. Just pay people. You know, tips should come from customers who want to give workers a little extra because they're providing a lot of service in addition to getting paid a regular minimum wage, as everyone should. When I go to a Subway, there's a person behind a counter, and I pick up my stuff and I go to my table, and there's a little cup there, tips. Like, you're not bringing me my food to my table. You're not doing more than just passing something across the counter. And yeah, I give them a tip. I'll give them the 15%, which is, I think, the minimum when you check out. And I always ask them, like, are the tips going to you or is it going to management? And they've all told me it's going to them. So at least I know that the tip is going to them because they're making minimum wage to begin with. Anybody working in a Subway is already making minimum wage, and I've got no problem giving them an extra 15% if I know it's going to them. Because the minimum wage as it is bullshit to begin with. It's not a living wage. Any thoughts before we move into the next story?
Well, you guys have heard me rant about what a living wage is supposed to be and how the actual minimum wage has been stagnant for years and was always meant to be a living wage. And that amount, with the way productivity and inflation and cost of living is right now, should be somewhere closer to $30 an hour.
Yep. Can you bring up not the NBC Chicago, but bring up the Twitter CWB?
The Twitter,
Chicago
okay.
Yeah, bring that up
Yeah.
before we share the next story. Awful story out of the Loop. The Loop, where probably 100% of CPD is located because of all the expensive businesses down there in the Loop. This happened. Social media video shows an altercation that ended with a 16-year-old girl fatally stabbed in the Loop on Tuesday night. Someone was shooting video instead of calling the cops. Look, that's where, dude, that's like not too far from State Street. Cops are practically in every corner in the Loop. Where are they here? That looks like it's, wait, which bridge is this? Because I just saw they're on a bridge over the river.
It's blurry. I can't read the street signs.
Well, we'll get more when I go into the NBC article, but
are we going to see a stabbing in a minute here?
I'm not sure. I didn't watch the whole video. Just
let
it
thinking,
run. It's after 8 o'clock. If it's on Twitter, we can show it. Essentially, what they're sharing is the escalation here. I don't know. I don't think the person who was recording this video had any idea how it was going to escalate into a fatal stabbing. I don't know what they're arguing about. But again, they're on a bridge, and I'm wondering, like, where are the cops?
I mean, as soon as some type of altercation is apparent, I mean, you would think that somebody would be coming by. Okay, did we just miss it?
Maybe I don't know. I mean, I'm not worried about seeing it so much as I just wanted to share.
No, I don't want to see it. I just want to know if it happened. It looks like, well, somebody's on the ground over there.
All right. Well, you get the idea. Let's go. There's actually, I didn't realize there's a video report at the NBC5 link that's in our show notes where they do have someone in custody, but this goes into more details of what happened ahead of time.
Okay, let me see. Hopefully this is the right one.
The police find the person who stabbed a teenager.
NBC5's Lisa Chavarria is live here for us this morning at Chicago Police Headquarters. And Lisa, any word from police about the suspect?
Well, at this point, JC and Michelle, Chicago police tell us they're still searching for that woman this morning. What we do know, Chicago police say two women got into a fight. One of the women pulled out a knife and stabbed the other twice in the chest. The victim, we're told, was just 17 years old. Chicago police spent much of the night and into the early morning hours investigating in the Loop as this fight happened last night around 11:30 on Van Buren near Dearborn. You can see officers processing the scene and collecting evidence. Police say a 17-year-old got into a physical fight with another woman and was stabbed twice in her chest. Now, that woman took off running. Now, the victim, she was taken to Northwestern Memorial Hospital, where she was initially in critical condition, but police say she died a short time later. We had a chance to hear from a resident who lives nearby, and he says that he's noticed this area is changing.
We have things happening in the neighborhood that didn't happen before, so it really isn't a surprise.
It's still unclear what led up to the fight or whether the two women knew each other. Investigators have not yet identified the woman who stabbed the teen. And here's the thing, this is the second deadly stabbing that's happened at that exact location just within the last month. Now, police tell us the previous one was actually an attempted robbery that took place. As far as what led up to this altercation, that is still what remains under investigation this morning. Reporting live from Chicago Police Headquarters, Lisa Chavarria, NBC5 News.
So here's what strikes me, Ed. Last broadcast, we shared video of some idiot doing donuts in front of the Chicago Theater on State Street. And the police not doing anything to stop or arrest the guy. Now we're hearing of this story of a 17-year-old stabbed in the Loop, second type of story, incident. The article goes on to say officers responding to a disturbance in the route in the loop Taco Bell at about 11:20 p.m. Tuesday were flagged down by someone who described a stabbing nearby in the first block of West Van Buren Street. There they found Heaven Taylor lying in the street, suffering from stab wounds to her chest. Officers applied a chest seal. Okay. Horribly tragic situation. And you know what most people on social media would call for? More money for cops.
What's that going to do?
Well, that's my point. Clearly, and here's the other point I wanted to make. As far as, because I know that that's going to be the outcry on social media as well. This is exactly why we need to spend more money on the cops. Why? They don't seem to be anywhere that things are happening to prevent them to begin with, or if they are, as we speculated with the Chicago theater incident, it's like there are cops on State Street like every other block of State Street. They're like literally parked in the median in the middle of the street. There were clearly no cops out at Van Buren or driving up and down the street to like make their presence known to prevent something like this from happening. So the argument that we need to spend more money on police to prevent this stuff from happening is again an empty argument, because the police are never where things need to be to prevent them from happening. They only react and respond. What do I mean? There's an article at the Tribe that is talking about the Chicago budget, and the reason I went to this article was I was curious to know, how much money are we spending on cops every budget? It keeps increasing and increasing and increasing. Yet crime is the same, if not worse. And the amount of money spent to increase the police budget isn't stopping the crimes. What does that tell us, Ed?
You can't stop crime by keep continuing to funnel money into police budgets.
Right. You got to start reallocating resources. Now, I'm not saying reallocating resources was going to stop this 17-year-old from getting stabbed. Okay. And I'm not saying that this is something that's going to be changed overnight or in one mayor's tenure or two mayors' tenures. But as long as you keep shoveling money into the Chicago Police Department and ignoring the reallocation of resources towards neighborhoods, creating opportunities, reopening mental health clinics, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to come on one night and paint my face blue just to punctuate the fact that we've been saying this every broadcast to the degree where we should be blue in the face repeating it. So this article at the Tribe, let me go down to the police budget area. Let's see here.
Oh, they've embedded a video
budget
at the top of this thing. I'm going to hit the stop button on that.
The heart of Johnson's campaign message, we don't have to bring it up. I can read from the article at the Tribe because it relates to what we're talking about here. The heart of Johnson's campaign message was investing in people. For Johnson, that looks like examining the root causes of violence and pouring money and resources in communities that have experienced decades of disinvestment. Johnson said he would not defund the police, yet he wants to approach violence prevention holistically. During a January interview with the Tribe, Johnson said the police budget is almost $3 billion, and our communities aren't safer. Because, Ed, I guess you'd think that if we spent this $3 billion, why would this 17-year-old be getting stabbed? Where are the cops?
We threw all that money at the police departments. They're better at their jobs now, right? They're more responsive. They're better at de-escalating things. They're always where they need to be in order to try and prevent crime, right, Jerry? Because of the $3 billion.
The last time I drove downtown late at night, I recall seeing cops on State Street. I recall seeing cops all over the place in the loop, parked over in Grant Park, off the street, in the park, past the sidewalks. They're there. They're just not driving around making their presence known or driving around where they might catch something like this and go intervene. That's just been my experience going downtown to the loop, the hub of the city where all the big business, all the expensive retail shops are and stuff. Yet I never see the cops driving around the loop. I see them parked in the loop. Now, getting back to the Tribe article, Johnson said, I don't know how we can continue to go down a path that has demonstrated that it doesn't work. The police budget is almost $3 billion, and we're still seeing this happen. So how does spending more money on the cops prevent this? It doesn't. The police budget makes up about 35% of the city's corporate fund, which is the largest of the city's 6 funds that are used to fund city services and programs. Dollars from the corporate fund are used for city operations and services like the Chicago Police and Fire Departments and more. Previous mayors, such as former Mayor Lori Lightfoot, increased the police budget despite pleas from Chicago organizers to defund the CPD and reallocate those dollars to community-based organizations, mental health and violence prevention programming. Lightfoot increased the police budget from $1.7 billion in 2021 to $1.9 billion in 2022. During former Mayor Rahm Emanuel's tenure, the police budget steadily increased from $1.3 billion in 2012 to nearly $1.6 billion in 2018, his final year in office. As part of Johnson's promise to invest in people, he pledged to support and expand programming and summer employment for youth. This summer, more than 24,000 young people were employed through the city's One Summer Chicago program, which is a 19% increase from 2022. That's actually encouraging. Previous investments in youth programming have steadily increased since 2011. In Emanuel's 2019 budget, he proposed increasing funding for youth and children by investing $77 million compared to $21 million under former Mayor Richard M. Daley. Lightfoot followed this trend of investment in youth and children in her budget proposals. Lightfoot's administration invested $150 million into youth programming and services to support youth and their family in 2022 and 2023. But let's look at those numbers again. Lightfoot's administration invested $150 million in youth programming, while she allocated $1.9 billion to the police department budget. Do we see the disparity there in how the funds might actually impact the root causes of the problem? And you're not going to solve the root causes of the problem in one administration. But when you see the disparity between how much is being spent on the cops, okay, let me make sure I've got the years right. Lightfoot invested $150 million in youth programming and services to support youth and their family in 2022 and 2023, compared to increasing the police budgets in 2021 to $1.7 billion and in 2022 to $1.9 billion. That's a big difference. Can you just imagine, maybe let's take, I don't know. What if we took the $1.6 billion going to the police and cut it in half? Put half of that towards the services that they're only committing, what was it, 150 million to? Why don't you put 500 million? 500 million into youth programming and services and 500 million into the cops. Cut the billion in half. I wonder if that might make a difference, since overfunding the police is not doing a goddamn thing. And again, it's not going to happen over the tenure of one mayor. This is going to take decades and generations to balance out. But the sooner we start reallocating more resources towards the communities, you're going to start to make that small incremental change towards, I don't know, helping some of these kids who are in bad situations that don't have a chance in their homes with however they're being. And this is not just related to the South and West sides. This is everywhere. But since this is such a divided city and it's such a segregated city, and the segregated part of the city on the South and West sides are the ones that have been more neglected, do I have to say the ugly part out loud? Ed, your thoughts?
Yeah, the budget, cut it in half. Take all that money, put it into all the social programs that have been cut over the decades, and support the communities again. This is a no-brainer. To the authoritarians, not to the authoritarians who need more cops, more boots on the street, more cars on the street, of cops where I really believe a lot of them are standing down because they're kicking their heels and they're shaking their fists because a black guy was elected mayor. And since they really couldn't all resign because they're relying on their great benefits, they're deciding to step down and maybe not perform their jobs as optimally as they should, further exacerbating the problems. Yeah, it's like they're doing the blue flu, but they're doing it on the clock. And it's never been more obvious when you see some of these situations where there's cops downtown and things are happening and they stand down. I mean, strategically, sometimes it makes sense Like you got that guy who was doing donuts in front of the Chicago theater, right? It's like for the cops to maybe have excel.
They could have blockaded each intersection. They could have blockaded.
They could. Well, yeah, they could have set up cars and set up roadblocks and stuff, but typically they would have escalated that situation into a bad situation instead of thinking like what they should do is use their brains, the ones that have brains, and consider, okay, well, we're going to find that car, we'll ticket it, we'll impound it, we'll find out who the owner is, and we'll take that guy in and charge him for reckless driving or whatever. There are some situations where they actually have to act at the time things are happening, though, and it feels like to me. We saw that happen when was it earlier this year? They had the teen takeovers downtown.
Yeah.
Where these tourists were in town and groups of teens just started beating on the tourists and the cops just stood there. There are times when you need to intervene if you're in law enforcement. It's like, that was one of those times you let somebody down. If you don't want to do that job, don't do that job. There are other jobs in this world.
Streets and Sand is hiring. In regards to the stabbing and death of Heaven Taylor, as far as arrests, they had originally reported that they had arrested somebody, but let me read the details because there was some misinformation here on whether they had a suspect or not. The video said that someone was in custody, but then they said she wasn't. Okay, let me read. This is what I'm getting confused on. An 18-year-old woman has been taken into Chicago police custody in connection with the stabbing death of a 16-year-old girl in the Loop after officials were contacted by a pastor of a West Side church who told them the suspect wanted to turn herself in, according to a police report. The woman remained in custody as of Thursday afternoon. Earlier, Chicago police announced charges in the case, but have since said that was done in error. Okay, so the police originally announced charges. That was an error, but then the woman who was responsible turned herself in. A spokesperson for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office said police had not submitted a case to the office for charging consideration as of Thursday afternoon, and it's now Friday night. Just after 5 p.m. Wednesday, police met with the pastor and the woman outside a West Side church, and she was placed into custody without incident, police said. Wait, I'm still confused.
I think Wednesday, I heard about this.
Wednesday they went. The pastor called the police. On Wednesday, they went to the West Side Church, and she was placed into custody. She remained in custody as of Thursday afternoon. Earlier, before Thursday, police announced charges in the case, but have since said that was done in error. A spokesperson for the County State's Office said police had not submitted a case to the office for charging consideration as of Thursday afternoon. Oh, this is all a timing with like when they submitted a report for charging. So I guess after Thursday afternoon and Thursday evening, she has been charged.
I heard something about this on the news this morning on the radio, and if this is the same story, I believe what they were saying is that the person who stabbed the other person was doing it in self-defense.
Okay,
and that's why they were taken into custody. So that could be why there aren't charges being pressed at the current time.
Yeah, further down in the article. Okay, let me get to, all right. So they're witnesses to what happened. Several witnesses were still on the scene where a large group had been fighting. At least one person identified the suspect by name and told police Taylor, the victim, had been in an argument with her when the suspect took out a knife and stabbed Taylor twice in the chest before fleeing. How is taking out a knife and stabbing Taylor in the chest twice self-defense?
I wouldn't consider it that with only that information available. Well, I'm just saying what I heard on the radio this morning.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, that was, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of details that are not.
Maybe there's some information missing from this story.
A man who worked at the same church as the pastor and helped facilitate the woman's arrest told the Sun-Times she came to them after the incident scared and looking for help. They say she was being attacked, and in all of the videos that you see, she was being attacked, he said. People were trying to portray it as if she was an aggressor, and she wasn't. She was standing there until they came and attacked her, and it escalated. Police have not released any videos in connection to the case. He said there had been previous altercations with this group of girls and that the arrested woman was acting in self-defense. After speaking with the woman and her mother, the man and fellow church leaders advised her to go to police and called in the Harrison Police District's faith advisor. The church worker said he was confident police would be able to see from video footage that the suspect had been attacked. We saw that video from CWB Chicago. Did you make anything up? We couldn't make sense of what the hell was going on.
I couldn't tell what was going on there.
Taylor,
I mean, the only thing I could see was somebody at a certain point in the video, someone was lying on the ground. But before that, it was just a bunch of people yelling at each other.
Yeah. Taylor's mom, Shalicia Clayton, told the Sun-Times Wednesday that her daughter had just started her junior year at UCAN Academy on the South Side. She was a lovable person and had a 2-year-old son whom Clayton said she will now raise. Wow, 17 with a 2-year-old. And she's starting school. That's going to be rough. I just want her remembered as a good mama and a good auntie and a good daughter, Clayton said. This right here just hurts. UCAN released a statement Wednesday sending condolences to Heaven's family and her beloved son. Taylor was the second child in less than a year that Clayton had lost to violence in Chicago. This mother lost 2 kids to violence. I just buried my oldest son last year, her older brother, and now I've got to bury my daughter this year, Clayton told the Sun-Times. There's just too much violence out there. But as for like self-defense, pulling out a knife and stabbing someone twice in the chest, I guess we're just going to have to sit and wait for more details.
Yeah, I mean, if they're saying that, you know, one or more people had physically attacked them, regardless of whether they had a weapon, I mean, maybe there's justification there, but I don't have enough information. So, but that doesn't mean there isn't enough information out there. It just means the information we have doesn't seem too conclusive, but maybe there's other videos. Maybe there's other witnesses.
Well, if we see any follow-ups, we will share that in a future broadcast. But yeah, it all's very hinky, Ed. Let me try let's see how my tech is doing tonight. Let me see if I can have our friends over from U.S. Marshal Samuel Gerard's squad describe what this was.
I mean, it's hinky.
Oh, strange.
Weird.
Well, don't say strange or weird. Hinky, that has no meaning.
Always say hinky.
I don't want you guys using words around me that got no meaning.
I don't want you guys using words around me there that don't have no meaning. Yeah, and there it is. See, because there's this thing where we play the reaction videos, and then those videos automatically mute our microphones, except it muted mine, but not Jerry's until it was done playing.
After it was done. Yeah. So, like I said, Ed, Cook County grant new computer November deadline.
Yeah.
It just completely takes the wind out of me when we're trying to like move. Anyway, let's get to our next story as reported by the Sun-Times. We have some good news to report this week. After following this particular story for 2 years. In fact, I remember when I first was given stewardship of Chicago Corner as the host, we went out and covered the original General Iron strike in front of Lori Lightfoot's place over in, was it Humboldt Park, I think? No, near Logan Square. Is it Logan? Yeah, it's Logan Square, not Logan Park. Anyway, this has to do with General Iron and the fact that a judge orders relocated General Iron on southeast site to remain closed. This is a fantastic victory for those concerned with the environmental racism of relocating a toxic chemical spewing recycling plant to a neighborhood with brown people that was originally near Lincoln Park. You know, we move them to other populated areas that have brown people. We don't like relegate them to places where there aren't residential communities surrounding them. So thankfully, a judge told General Iron, no, you're staying closed. Southside Recycling, the rebranded metal shredding operation, sparked a civil rights complaint and an investigation by HUD. And this comes from Brett Chase at the Chicago Sun-Times. Cook County Circuit Judge Alan Walker rejected a request by the owner of the operation at East 116th Street by the Calumet River to open for business after former Mayor Lori Lightfoot blocked it last year. Lightfoot, who initially aided the business's relocation from Lincoln Park, ultimately denied the permit after a flurry. She would have never done it had there not been protests. Denied the permit after a flurry of protests from Southeast Side residents who said they couldn't take any more air pollution. The decision to block the business followed a months-long health impact assessment of the Southeast Side that City Hall cited in rejecting the permit. Community organizers even filed a federal civil rights complaint against the city over the matter, leading to findings that are forcing the city to change its planning and land use practices. On Thursday, they praised the judge's decision. This gives us some relief right now, said Oscar Sanchez, co-executive director of the community organization Southeast Environmental Task Force. We didn't know what the outcome would be, but our campaign was ready to mobilize. In June, a city administrative hearings judge ruled that Lightfoot and her public health department didn't follow rules when it denied the permit for the operation, which is now rebranded Southside Recycling. I guess they figured changing their name would keep them under the radar, but I mean, why change your name when you're basically spewing the same amount of garbage into the environment, toxic garbage? The next month, the business's owner asked Walker to order the city to allow the shredding site to open, a request Mayor Brandon Johnson is fighting, as well as the administrative hearings ruling. Walker said in court Thursday that the administrative hearings judge did not specifically order the city to issue the business permit. It doesn't say that, correct? Walker asked a lawyer for the business. You folks had or could have had that language be included in the order.
Oops.
Bradley Wilson, a lawyer for the city, called the Southside Recycling argument an unsupported reading of the decision made by the administrative hearings court. Wilson and other city lawyers will continue to fight the ruling made by that administrative hearings court, saying that Lightfoot and her health department had every right to deny the metal shredder's permit. The business owners, after signing an agreement with Lightfoot in 2019, built a new scrap metal operation at the East Side location. What was funny about this at the time to me, Ed, is they started building without getting a permit because they just assumed the permit was in the cards for them, you know. But then all the protests happened. It's like, oh, it wasn't so easy to get what they, I don't know, maybe made some kind of campaign donation expecting quid pro quo on. I don't know. We have to see if the owners of the original General Iron had any money going into Lightfoot's campaign. The operation was never allowed to open, though it's fully. How do you build an operation without a permit? Why would you commit? They must have thought, oh, this is a no-brainer. We're going to get our permit because someone made a promise. But then Lightfoot was in the hot seat and couldn't let it go forward after that.
Hey, look, Jerry, I had every intention of letting pollution happen on the South Side, but those damn environmentalists stopped me. But good news, we're getting NASCAR back. Woohoo!
Well, wait, who said we're getting NASCAR back? We still, the court's still out on whether we're going to have NASCAR back. Doesn't it still have to be assessed? Don't we still have an out with that?
Theoretically, there's still an out. Although it sounded like, at least in a story I read, that they're coming back. They're planning on it, and Brandon Johnson is fine with it.
Oh, God. What is he thinking? He's not thinking. Oh, my God. Well, let's hope they get rained out again next year, too.
Yeah. Well, they say the setup is going to be, and takedown is going to be shorter this time.
Sure it is.
Uh-huh.
General Iron was, or the newly rebranded scrap metal operation was never allowed to open, though it's fully built. General Iron, which operated on the North Branch of the Chicago River for decades, has been closed and dismantled. The land was expected to be sold for redevelopment as parts of an ambitious real estate plan known as Lincoln Yards. Ooh, there's another piece of the puzzle I hadn't realized was there. Lightfoot moved them because of her Lincoln Yards redevelopment, because that land was going to be part of that redevelopment. So she pulled the rug out from under them. She probably made them a promise. Go to the South Side. We need more property for Lincoln Yards. You'll get your permit. Oops. No, you're not. I had my fingers crossed. What do they call that when you cross your fingers? And the delay in the process and the block permit have been the subject of multiple lawsuits, though the only win for Southside Recycling so far has been in the administrative hearings. Another lawsuit in circuit court seeks damages from the city for the costs of building the shredding facility as well as lost revenue. So yeah, you know that's what happened. She get out of Lincoln Park, go to the south side, you'll get your permit. Then she fucks them, and then they've got means for civil suits seeking damages because they were probably promised the permit and then it got pulled out from under them for the lost revenue. That proposed move from mostly white and affluent Lincoln Park to a Latino community surrounded by black neighborhoods on the southeast side was the focus of a federal civil rights investigation by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development that concluded the city has discriminatory planning and land use practices and policies. Johnson has pledged to reform city policies under a binding agreement with the feds and recently announced a plan to introduce an environmental protection ordinance later this year. The Southeast Side fight has been one of the most high-profile pollution concerns, but Sanchez said it has also helped unify community groups across the city who are pushing Johnson to make good on his environmental promises. This is one of the many fights in the city of Chicago, Sanchez said, and one of the wins, which is great to see. Look, it took a while. Look, 2 years. 2 years since those original protests. During COVID, people were out on the streets in masks, risking their health. But thank goodness something good came of it. All right, let's move into our next story. I just found this interesting just because I have a fascination with the mob in Chicago and mob history and organized crime and how the syndicate, probably was also very, very involved in matters that related to the old Daley's administration. I'm not talking Richie Jr. I'm talking old man Daley and what was allowed to happen here in the city. So let me pull up the webpage archive since we're getting problems here with this Tribune article behind a paywall. Okay. So can you bring this one up just so we have some visuals to go along with it?
Yeah, I had to pull up the archive too because I don't have a Tribune subscription.
Do you need the archive link? Because I have it.
No, I just got it. Hold on.
Okay. So this is a great little pot boiler story. This is the reason that I saw this story caught my attention. It reminded me of the Jimmy Hoffa story. He was seen at a restaurant and then disappeared. But let's get into some of the details that make this kind of fascinating. This is our historical corner, as reported by Ron Grossman at the Chicago Tribune. Sal Puglia, who had ties to politics and the Chicago outfit, was last seen at a Melrose Park restaurant in 1981. Let's scroll down to the restaurant. Rocky's Restaurant and Cocktail Lounge in Melrose Park, where Melrose Park, which is still probably very much syndicate occupied, where Sal P. Puglia was last seen on the night of June 3rd, 1981. Witnesses have told Melrose Park police that Puglia drove his recently leased 1981 silver Volvo to Rocky's Drive-In at 2212 North St. Charles North Avenue. And Charles Osgood is the photographer. Okay. When a politician disappears, the police usually have some good ideas about where to look for him or his bullet-ridden body. They ask bartenders if he has been showing up with a woman who isn't his wife or with another guy's girlfriend. Was he in hock to a shady character for services rendered? Had he thwarted a rival's hopes for elective office? But in Sal P. Puglia's case, the cast of characters was so large it was hard to know where to begin. Vanishing in 1981, he's never been heard from since. A Melrose Park resident and Democratic committeeman, his story is regularly rehashed in a sidebar when newspapers report another puzzling disappearance. It is a gold standard of missing person sagas. There's Sal right there, Sal P. Puglia. Puglia's last public sightings were described by the Tribune's John O'Brien and Edward Bauman as a longtime crime reporting team. They were privy to police station gossip. Mafioso might have given them a tip on an underworld rival. On June 3rd of 1981, Puglia, then 33, had dinner with Sam Scott, a Chicago banker at Vic Giannotti's Forest Park restaurant. Puglia had left his $30,000 a year job in the Cook County Clerk's office a month earlier. He managed the department that approved or rejected applications for tax deferments. He rebranded himself as a business consultant and wanted a tutorial from Scott on how to attract clients. Perhaps that also prompted him to circulate a letter from the U.S. Attorney's Office thanking him for being a witness in its investigation of the Cook County Board of Tax Appeals. I think what sunk his ship was the letter, a former investigator told the Tribune. It made him look like he was proud to be a stool pigeon.
Uh-huh.
And then look for business after that. At 11 p.m. on that fateful day in 1981, Paglia arrived at Rocky's Drive-In, 2212 North Avenue, 2 blocks from his home. A Melrose Park police officer on routine patrol saw Paglia driving east on North Avenue in his distinctive silver Volvo sedan shortly before midnight. About 2:30 a.m., he left Rocky's. Authorities believe that Jackie the Lackey Cerrone, number 3 in the Chicago mob's hierarchy, owned Rocky's. O'Brien and Bauman noted. O'Brien and Bauman reported that investigators learned Paglia had been told not to run for re-election by Chicago's First Ward committeeman, Johnny D'Arco. I mean, these names just like reek of mob affiliations. John D'Arco, First Ward committeeman. Reportedly the mob's ambassador to the Democratic machine. Paglia's committeeman position was considered a mafia fiefdom. His predecessor, Ralph the Babe Serpico.
These names.
If you don't want to be affiliated with the outfit, you don't proudly like flout these nicknames. Ralph Babe Serpico had been sentenced to prison for bribery and tax evasion. Okay. His predecessor, Ralph Babe Serpico, had been sentenced to prison for bribery and tax evasion. Paglia refused to step down and said so publicly. I do not believe in smoke-filled room politics. He said in campaign rallies, I'm not part of those people, the mob. My reputation is the only thing I value. But he couldn't deny his financial debt to a mobster. He had borrowed $10,000 from the son of the late Joseph Joe Gags Gagliano. Shouldn't you know better not to borrow $10,000 for your campaign from Joe Gags Gagliano, a well-known loan shark?
Hey, Joey Gags has the best rates, though, Jerry.
I feel like I'm reading in like Goodfellas Chicago, an episode of Goodfellas Chicago. Not only did Paglia stiff the mobster's son, a second-generation juice merchant, he claimed it was a campaign donation, not a loan. With that cover story, he might well have acquired the unforgiving enmity of both the outfit and the Internal Revenue System. Besides favoring mobbed-up joints, Paglia had a mobster pedigree. His father, Frank Paglia, was in law enforcement lingo known to be an associate of Fiore Buccieri, a top-ranking mobster. Okay, so his affiliations, while pretending he's clean, kind of remind me of what Rob Blagojevich did, marrying, what's her name? The well-known alderman. Who's his father-in-law?
Sorry.
Blagojevich's father-in-law.
Oh, Dick Mel?
Dick Mel, yeah. So Mel's not mafia, but like associating with these people and pretending you're not part of the same filthy corruption is just like your first mistake to them, like basically teaching you the facts of life and either rubbing you out as they did with Paglia or deciding to send Blagojevich to prison right after he was swimming with the scum and pretended he wasn't the scum. Anyway,
hey, Jerry, I got this live stream and it's fucking golden. And if you'd like to support this fucking live stream, you can do that over at patreon.com/Chicago Corner. And we will call it a campaign donation and not a loan.
Yes. In their generation, Melrose Park and Forest Park gave birth to cops and robber friendships. They began in childhood. One buddy goes straight, the other is crooked, but they are bonded for life. In the elder Paglia's day, the Armory Lounge in Forest Park was the headquarters of Sam Momo Giancana, the mafia's boss of bosses. Sal Paglia was drawn to politics. He was a member of the Democratic National Committee, and during President Jimmy Carter's administration was a frequent recipient of phone calls from the White House, the Tribune reported. Following his disappearance, Paglia's wife and brother-in-law, John Carpino, a DuPage County police detective, began their own search, at one point walking the parking lots of the city's airports, looking for the missing man's silver Volvo. Yeah, like they'd leave it out in public in a parking lot instead of sinking it into one of the river branches. Chicago police, or lighting it on fire. Chicago police officers also checked every car at O'Hare International Airport's sprawling parking lot and prowled Rush Street, the nightlife district Paglia was known to frequent. All leads have been exhausted, said Detective Commander Robert Banks after 6 months of searching. We all want Sal back, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen, said Gary Marinaro, Palia's interim replacement as committeeman.
Hey, remember the James Bond movie Goldfinger, where the one guy who didn't want in on the deal was allowed to leave, but then they crushed his car into a cube with him still in it?
That's not a bad theory, Ed. Maybe it was at the old General Iron, if they still existed in Lincoln.
Scrapyard. He's buried under Lincoln Yards.
A grand jury convened by Cook County State's Attorney Richard M. Daley came to a similar dead end. It issued more than 30 subpoenas, creating a veritable Venn diagram of Chicago's overlapping political and mobster circles. Among those summoned was First Ward Alderman Fred Roddy, who reported to D'Arco, the committeeman who advised Palia to get out of politics. A process server couldn't find retired mob boss Joey Ayupa. Investigators said that with Ayupa's connections to mob families throughout the nation, he could hide out indefinitely if he wished, the Tribune reported. The FBI suggested checking in Oak Park Hospital. Ayupa had respiratory problems. The investigators went to the hospital to question employees there. When they saw Ayupa leaving the building, they handed him the subpoena, the Tribune reported. The mayor of Melrose Park, a childhood friend of Palia's, was granted immunity from prosecution, but nonetheless refused to testify. Others, including Ayupa, reportedly pled the Fifth Amendment. The investigation produced nary a lead and was headed to the cold case files, but it was resuscitated in 1988. A burial ground of syndicate victims was uncovered in DuPage County. Oh, this is totally Goodfellas. Parts of several bodies were found in a grave dug in a field near Argonne. Excuse me. National Laboratory. Lime had been poured over them to quicken their decomposition.
And now they're radioactive.
The first remains were initially thought to be those of Richard Ferraro, the owner of a Calumet City junkyard. He had gone missing in 1977. Let's scroll down to the next picture. Investigators eventually determined the body was not Ferraro's, but sources said the burial ground could hold the remains of a number of mob targets who vanished without a trace during the last 20 years, the Tribune reported. Palia matched that description. He'd stiffed a loan shark and ratted on patronage employees. Of course, he might be alive, but he didn't fit the profile of a runaway. Those who disappear on their own accord generally leave a money trail to restart their lives elsewhere. They will close a savings account, sell an asset, pawn jewelry. Yet nothing was missing from Palia's safe deposit box. His estate wasn't much, a heavily mortgaged home and some stock in a Wheaton bowling alley. And FBI agents didn't find his remains in the mafia victims' burial grounds. So there the story ends. Its mystery unresolved. That is, until perhaps some detective is intrigued by a dusty old file and proceeds to find a clue his or her predecessors overlooked. Or an enterprising reporter going through old newspaper clips stumbles upon a yarn just too good to be forgotten and starts digging. So, cold case file closed, but awaiting somebody to pick up, I don't know what little threads there are to solve the mystery. Oh, we have a new patron, Cowboy Kitty. Yes, I haven't updated the opening patron video yet, Cowboy Kitty, but I will. Thanks for reminding me.
And thanks for donating.
Yeah, thanks for becoming a patron. Okay, as we close out our program tonight, with Halloween approaching, we have a great list provided by Block Club Chicago that apparently collected the opinions of their readers at Block Club to identify, before Halloween, what is the creepiest place in Chicago? Here's what Block Club readers have to say. Now, I want to also preface this with, I did scan the article, and none of Block Club's readers identified Ray Lopez's bedroom as one of the creepiest places in Chicago. That's probably what I would have speculated. Ray Lopez's bedroom is one of the creepiest places in Chicago.
I really need a soundboard.
I got no laugh
reaction to like do screams and stuff, like the Homer Simpson scream. Which I'm losing my voice, man. I should have got a drink refill.
Once again, I would have voted Ray Lopez's bedroom as one of the creepiest places in Chicago.
That's hilarious.
Let's go into you.
But I can't laugh right now. I have no, I need, you know what? Leave my camera on. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'll save the story for you. Let's see what's going on in the live chat. Not a whole lot. Kathy's having audio issues from Rumble, it appears. It's frozen, refreshing now, and we're back. Kathy also related in regards to our earlier story, I believe, about where are the cops. Kathy shares, a week ago, Tuesday night around 8:30 p.m., I couldn't get on an elevator at Jackson. There were no police or attendants at the station. What the hell? Yeah, cops are on the Mag Mile, but that's also not too far from the Loop, Kathy. And I've seen them, especially on State Street outside ABC 7, anytime I've been down there. All right, so let's get to the article as reported by Melissa Espana at Blog Club Chicago. We asked our readers what they think is the creepiest, most unsettling place in Chicago. I would also probably add Lori Lightfoot's bedroom too, but she's not here anymore.
Again, I need to add that I need an audio soundboard for screams. Several varieties of screams.
I think I got us covered. Before I go into their article. Okay, here we go. What is the creepiest place in Chicago? What Block Club readers have to say? I would say Lori Lightfoot's bedroom.
Yeah, see, that's so much better.
I would say Ray Lopez's bedroom.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what we needed to punctuate that. So, all right, back to the Block Club article. While some people had witty responses like Soldier Field during a Bears game, that's not that creepy. Or City Hall, maybe a little bit. Many responded with some of the city's most reportedly haunted places. Others had less known replies. There she is.
It's terrifying.
She is terrifying. Her glare was terrifying. Here are their responses. Some have been edited for clarity. Founders Hotel, or the lot where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happened. Both my dad and I have stories about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre lot. It's oddly unsettling how quiet it can be there. That was from Monica Chapman via Facebook. Clar Zolk via Instagram says, I hate driving on Lower Wacker. All of a sudden, I don't know what time of day it is, where I'm going, where I'm supposed to get off, if this is the day Upper Wacker is going to fall on Lower Wacker, and so on. I like driving on Lower Wacker because it's a great shortcut across the city.
Yeah, if you're used to driving on Lower Wacker, it's cool. But if you're not, it can be scary. You don't know, like, do I have to slow down? Do I have to speed up? Am I gonna hit a girder? Am I gonna run into somebody? It's like it's constant sensory overload if you're not used to driving in a space like that.
The best way to drive Lower Wacker is at night when it's practically empty. And you're blasting one of the tracks from The Dark Knight, which is dog chasing cars, which is the Joker and music from the scene on Lower Wacker Drive and Upper Wacker near LaSalle Street during the what was it, the truck flip. Anyway, exciting soundtrack music.
Yeah,
and it puts you in the moment because a lot of it was shot down there too.
Yeah, I'd be a lot more confident if I were down there in the Tumbler.
Well, I'll drive the route with you in the Jeep with that music blasting, and it might provide the same effect.
Yeah.
So Jacqueline Parker via Facebook says, for there being an entire song about it, driving down Pulaski at night has always given me ghost vibes. I like it. I don't know what song she's referencing, though. Do you?
There's a song. Hold on. Pulaski?
You can look that up while I continue.
Let me see what song they're talking about here.
Katie Grabine via Facebook says, the woman's bathroom in the basement of the Lion House at Lincoln Park Zoo. When I was little, they used to have alligators and two-headed snakes and frogs down there in big water tanks. The room is still kind of dank and it echoes strangely. It often sounds like you're not the only one down there, even if you are.
So Andrew Bird has a song called Pulaski at Night.
We'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I didn't know he was singing about that Pulaski.
Ian Padovin via Facebook shared that overgrown alley by Ashland and Kinsey running along the metro tracks. No amount of money would make me walk through there. Donna Moore via Facebook. I lived across the street from Graceland Cemetery on Clark. Spooky doings at night, sounds, orbs, and mists. Maybe it's changed in the renovations, but the stairway coming down from the Bryn Mawr Red Line station on the north side of the street, not the station side. The platform is really narrow there, and you go down. Is this from Kathy? It's a train station. No, it's not.
It's not.
Although she routinely reports on the really creepy stations that don't have the elevators or escalators working. So this particular reader shares the platform is really narrow at the Bryn Mawr Red Line, and you go down a steep, dark-covered stairway with a couple of hairpin turns down through one of those meat grinder turnstiles. Real horror movie lighting of a single amber overhead light, the stink of slightly rancid grease from the chicken shack next door, tight, dirty walls, and very occasionally someone sitting at the bottom by the exit you practically had to step over. Always gave me the heebie-jeebies. If the station was closed, I'd rush through as fast as possible, although I never heard of anything bad happening to anyone there. That comes from Katie Grabin via Facebook. Labag Woods. It's such a cool park, so it's worth a visit regardless. Very urban architecture taken over by nature vibes. But there have been tons of reports of satanic activity, and there's a hidden abandoned cemetery buried deep in the woods. My best friend and I went there, and there were so many areas of the park that made our skin crawl with spookiness. Scroll down to that picture. That's from No CNI 666 Mira via Instagram.
This one.
Yeah, the woods. Yeah, that is creepy looking. Looks like something out of a fairy tale book.
Yeah.
The basement at St. Simon's. I think everyone who ever worked there has a creepy story, even the ones like myself who don't believe in ghosts. And there's a picture of St. Simon's that comes from Liz McAllister via Facebook. And it says, for decades, there's been a rumor that Simon's Tavern, an Andersonville mainstay that once served as a speakeasy for the area's Swedish population, has been haunted by the ghost of a woman entangled in a twisted love affair. Heather O'Leary via Facebook. The tunnels under the UIC west side of the campus, super easy to get lost. Used to be able to hear lab animals in some areas. Ooh. And there's always flickering lights somewhere. Linda Bernasconi via Facebook. The Edgewater Hospital. It's been rehabbed into apartments, but if there are ghosts anywhere, it's there. Hospital was committing. Oh, I remember this story. The Edgewater Hospital. John Wayne Gacy was born there. That has been rehabbed into apartments. It was empty forever because the hospital was committing insurance fraud and doing unnecessary surgeries. Yeah, I remember reading the story about that place. I got to go there and check that out and see what vibes I get, because I remember driving by Edgewater Hospital when it was shut down. Get off the laptop, please. There goes my other monitor. And it was in a state of decay. And having read what had gone on there, along with the insurance fraud, it was just like, yeah, this has definitely got some bad juju going on there. Okay, Katie Grabin. They've taken a lot of suggestions from Katie Grabin on Facebook. The area around the row houses where Cabrini Green used to be, a block away, it's packed with neon and sushi restaurants, but right there it's empty lot, silence, and a ton of police cars just hanging out with their lights off. Creepy.
Police cars.
Then we got, just parked somewhere, not doing anything. I live near Rose Hill Cemetery. Where in the world is Mouse via Instagram shares the deepest, oldest parts of Rose Hill Cemetery's massive mausoleum. It was constructed over the years by adding on, but there is only one entrance in the new section. Walk in and go deep into the old sections, and it's like a maze. You can get lost. Super creepy and simultaneously so beautiful with all the gorgeous stained glass windows. I've never been in the mausoleum there. I'll have to go check it out.
Yeah, and also, Jerry, did you know they got wolves over there now? It's pretty crazy.
Not surprised.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I had heard that people were talking about creepy and scary places. Sorry, everybody. I'm Peg Leg Sullivan here. I was formerly accused of burning down Chicago in the Great Chicago Fire, and I have been what's the word? Admonished? No.
Exonerated?
Yes, exonerated of that. It wasn't me. It was also not Bessie the cow or Mrs. O'Leary. It turned out it was this other guy. But I wanted to say that one of the creepy...
Which other guy and what was your alibi?
You're gonna make me look up the story now? That was like the Irish Times had an article, was like last year, and it was these other Irish hooligans who happened to hang around the same time that were messing around in the barn, and they blamed me.
And where were you that fateful night in 1871? October of 1871?
Very likely, I was probably delivering beer to the bar that was next door or taking care of the cows. So I might have been nearby where the hooligans started the bar, but it wasn't me, or that started the fire. But it wasn't me.
There? Do you know what's now on the site of the O'Leary, the former O'Leary farm?
You know what's there? That's what I was gonna get to. Is it's over on DeKoven Street. It's pretty scary now because there's like a fire training center over there now.
Yeah. Well, why is that?
And
historical training and a training.
Well,
facility.
It's scary because I heard that there's a ghost cow mooing around there, and that's weird.
You always hear a ghost cow mooing.
That's true, but then Bessie's my roommate. Yes, I know we're talking about you, but we just brought you up because you go around the DeKoven Street where your barn is not anymore, and you go mooing and scaring the hell out of people. Yeah, sorry everybody, I'm talking to a ghost cow.
Warren claims it was the cow. Stop with your ghostly lies.
Anyway, I enjoy your program. Very interesting to hear it's on some platform called Rumble.
I'm glad someone does enjoy the program.
I hope to see it again sometime.
All right.
I don't know if I'm going to be participating again, but I'm very happy to have been part of the end of this train wreck.
I'm sure as we get closer to Halloween, you will find ways to show up in the program by possessing the body of my co-host Ed.
Yeah. So good night, everybody.
You were possessed again, Ed. You got any ectoplasm dripping off your nether regions?
Was it the alien or the guy who keeps saying he didn't start the fire?
That guy.
The second one. Yeah, I hadn't heard from Pegleg in a while.
He didn't start the fire. It was always burning while the world was turning.
Yeah, that's what I hear from Billy Joel.
We got some comments regarding creepiest places in Chicago. Kathy opines Aldermore's shadow if he has one. Yes, Warren, if the Blues Brothers can drive Lower Wacker, anyone can. Kathy feels Navy Pier is haunted, possibly.
Ghost fish.
Moody Bible Institute grounds. Let's see what else. Warren says, do you have any erectoplasm? Oh, and here he comes to move the camera again. All right, we're getting to the. You misspelled the name on your Patreons when it shows up on stream, Bulla. Oh, that's a comment for Warren, not us. All right, well, let's wrap up the creepiest places in Chicago as reported by Block Club Chicago. We were almost at the end here. The parking garage at the Regal Theater on Western, especially the elevator. Top floors, hallways of the Fine Arts Building on Michigan. They have that super old elevator that still operates and gives off Tower of Terror vibes. So, Gay Nord Designs via Instagram shares went on the Chicago Ghost Tour years ago. It was great, by the way. The only place I felt uneasy was at the Hull House. There was no reason to be spooked. This area is brightly lit and right in the UIC campus. It was the height of summer, and I had teeth chattering chills walking around it. I went on one of those ghost tours too. It was like when was it? Must have been 2018. It was all interesting folklore, but I didn't feel chills anywhere on the ghost tour. Although it was very revealing to me to discover, people don't know this, how many bodies are buried in Lincoln Park, the park, because that was like a mass burial ground back before the city was rebuilt after the Great Chicago Fire. Yeah, so, I mean, it wasn't even a cemetery. It was like bodies buried all over Lincoln Park, which is why there's a lot of folklore about ghost legends there.
Spirits. Yeah, There's a lot of graves that had to be relocated from Streeterville too, weren't there? Because the
Yes.
ground there at the time was not very stable at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's probably a ton of ghosts floating around Chicago, and we'll experience a lot of them in October.
Ooh, here's a good one. Couch Pedestrian Alley across from the Goodman is where bodies were laid out after the Iroquois Theater burned down. Super creepy, cutting through at night. The California Clipper is definitely haunted in the woman's bathroom. Tusable Bridge with its friezes of indigenous people being slaughtered as tourists walk around smiling and taking pictures. Yeah, that is kind of a creepy description. The Pedway, specifically under Macy's, people have reported Twilight Zone-esque experiences. There is a seemingly abandoned building on Halsted and in Lakeview that has gigantic models of SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward staring blankly out of the second-story windows. It is definitely haunted. And it does look like it's abandoned. Looking for even more spooky sites? Check out this list in the Black Club Chicago article linked in our show notes below. And we're not going to go through the rest, but I did click on the link. Oh, they go through the ones that are mostly known. Graceland Cemetery, Rose Hill Cemetery, Congress Plaza Hotel, which hosts a really cool, and I think it's the largest Halloween party in the city every year. Green Mill Cocktail Lounge, Hull House, yeah. The Usual Suspects, the site of the Eastland disaster, the advertisement that pops up on Block Club's page.
It's terrifying.
Chicago World's Fair, Nederlander Theater, the Hancock, the Drake. Great list there. Anyway, that brings us to the end of our program. It's 10:33. Luckily, we're not going longer than we sometimes do. I tried to not select too many stories so we can get out of here and early and not feel all burnt out. So anyway, that's our show tonight, everybody. Thanks for joining. Ed, anything you want to leave our viewers with before we head out?
Just reminding everybody to check us out at chicagocornertv.com. And you will find links to all of our social media. I even managed to get the show streaming on the page at the time. You want to buy some merch, there's some pretty cool merch there. Scroll down to the link with the merch store and you can see a good portion of merch with Oreo on it. In fact, I just added a couple things.
Oh, cool.
There's an Oreo. There are two versions of Oreo on a sticker now. You can get Oreo and Laser Eye Cat Oreo on a sticker.
That's a great idea.
And then you can put that sticker on anything. I was thinking maybe I'll make another set with smaller ones so people can stick them on pet dishes and stuff, because I couldn't find pet dishes in the fourth wall products.
Okay.
But maybe we can make some things that are easy for people to slap stickers on.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking solutions.
So I'm looking at our Rumble stream right now. It says we have 86 viewers. We don't have 86 viewers right now.
Well, I mean,
I think Rumble's fudging their numbers to make it look, and that's fine. I mean, it makes us look good, but I was curious to see if I get an accurate count of how many people might be tuned in right now. And given that we're usually only seeing the same cast of hooligans in our live chat regularly commenting, if you haven't commented before, let us know you're watching in the live chat so we can actually sense more people watching.
And if you're watching us in it's like a timeline scroll thing and you just have the sound on, click through to our actual video and come join us in the live chat for a minute and just say hi.
Yeah. Say hi so we know you're out there.
Oh, another item I added to the store, which is going to be pretty cool. Check this out. If I can get it on the screen here. It'll give me the button to share it. Here we go. There is an embroidered bucket hat now.
That's great.
So that's going to be pretty sweet.
I was trying to create embroidered baseball caps, but it made the logo too small and it was like along a seam line. I got to re-explore that because I wanted to get a nice black Chicago Corner baseball cap, but I like one of the big brim caps, not the tiny ones that look goofy. And it was just something wrong with my positioning of the embroidery on the cap. So I'll re-explore that because I want a Chicago Corner baseball cap of my own.
Yeah. So like I said, I got this, there's the Oreo sticker there. And there's the laser eyes Oreo sticker as well.
That's great. Good choice.
So we're slowly adding some items to this thing. And so it'll be, if you guys want to pick them up, we appreciate that because that money would be extremely helpful right now. If you're a Patreon supporter, thank you. If you want to just throw us a couple bucks, you can do that on the Fourth Wall Shop as well. Just scroll down to the bottom and there's an area where you can choose to just throw some money at us.
Look, if you can't afford $5 a month on Patreon, buy yourself an item that you can actually get some use out of, like a mug.
Yeah.
Drink coffee in the morning with Oreo. It throws us a couple bucks and it gives you something like actually tangible to like have in your house. I recommend if people don't even donate money without anything, get something for your money. They'll throw a couple bucks to us and then you'll have something to show for it on your end. So.
Yeah, and if you're looking for one of these graphic items on a product that we don't currently have in the shop, give us a shout. Let us know what you're looking for. I'll see if I can accommodate you. I'm happy to check our merch store to see if we got products that'll work for you. It'll make us happy. It'll make you happy.
Warren says 86 overall, maybe. I don't even think it's overall, Warren. Reef shared an article with Ed and I that spoke to the fact that it's crazy. Rumble shows so many viewers and shows so many subscribers, and it's like, I mean, we have 40 subscribers. That I'm willing to believe. But the amount of people watching a program, look, we're a little rinky-dink operation. It'd be nice to imagine that. But I think that it's a public relations campaign to help get Rumble more people considering going on the platform. And if so, that's fine, because we're sick and tired of YouTube. That's why we came over here, and I'm glad to be on Rumble. So,
yeah. Although I'm thinking maybe we should just take a clip of one of the times that we tell people to follow us on Rumble and just post it up over there.
At YouTube?
Because I know we don't. I don't always look at the notifications that get published up there, but if I see a new video,
well, it's not that you look for a notification. Anybody who's on YouTube who doesn't know we've moved to Rumble, if they go to YouTube, in their news feed or video feed, they will see hey, come over to Rumble. And I've seen it myself. I mean, anytime I log into YouTube prior to the show, because Chicago Corner is one of my saved channels, I always see the notifications that I put there. I don't have to look for it. It just pops up in my feed because I was a regular viewer of Chicago Corner. So anybody that regularly viewed Chicago Corner, where they would normally see a thumbnail for an upcoming show, they will see something, the little thumbnail I put in the community that says, hey, come find us on Rumble and Rockfin. But putting up a video is not a bad idea, so we can do that too.
Yeah, I figure, well, obviously, we've already got the one in the live stream tab. So they click over to the live stream. The last live stream they have is the one of us telling them go over to Rumble.
Yeah.
So that we got covered. But like in the video section, probably be good to throw a little clip there.
And as I said earlier, I sent a message to tech support at Rumble asking why our exclusive broadcasts here are not syndicating afterwards on YouTube, because it's been since the 28th of September. What, we're 2-3 weeks out now? No, the 23rd of September. I think when we first started broadcasting here. So hopefully they'll give a response. We'll figure out what's going on. So Ed, as always, thanks for helping me drive the show into the ditch tonight.
Happy to help.
We will be returning next Tuesday when Ed is in the captain's chair. And as always, until then, everybody, please, as you go into the weekend, make sure that you watch out for each other, be vigilant, stay safe. And as you return to our show next Tuesday and beyond, remember, if it's happening on the streets, the reason you come here is because you'll always hear about it here on Chicago Corner. So until we meet again, as always, stay safe, Chicago.
Get out of here, you dago bastard. Go on, get your ass out of here.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. If you would like to be a guest on Chicago Corner, please email our host, Jerry, at chicagocorner.tv.